What's up, guys? This is attempt two. I think I did the right setting. For those of you guys who may have been on with me a minute ago, I just restarted the feed just because I wasn't sure I actually set it to public. I wasn't sure I was talking to anyone there. So, anyways, welcome back for those of you guys. If I did it right, I have no idea, man. The technology for real. Sometimes I'll break it. For those of you guys who are new around here, my name's Frankie. Friend wrote those two best-selling books. There they are, and built three of my own agencies up to 100 plus clients over 20 years and helped thousands of you guys out there to live this more beach, last laptop lifestyle and sell your shit through videos and cool stuff like that. So excited to be back for another round. Just quick little announcement for those of you guys who missed the intro. There we go. It worked this time. Quick little announcement for those of you guys who are thinking to join us. I'm going to do in June. I'm finalizing the details, but in the city of Los Angeles, we're going to do a workshop on video closing, help you guys dial your shit. Loom's loaded ads coming. Let's go. I don't know if I told you guys where that song came from, but anyways, let's get into the good shit. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. With the greatest of all time, the man they call the man, His Holiness, 170 pounds of pure steel and sex appeal is. Anyways, enough shenanigans. Okay, first question we got up. We got our man Aravind. I hope I'm saying your name right, dude. He says, quick questions. What are the signs to look for a prom client or a crackhead client in 2026? This was in response, by the way. I made a post that said the way most people think about getting clients is they really just think anyone with a credit card and a pulse. But like, imagine a guy's dating and he thinks, I just want any woman anywhere. Well, that includes crackheads. You know, that includes the lady with a meth lab. That includes the lady with bullet wounds. That includes the lady who's a 40-year career prostitute, right? Like, there's a lot of fucked up people in the world. And so if you're not careful, you'll end up with what I call crackhead clients who will drive you fucking crazy. And so to me, what do you look for in, and a lot of times, by the way, mindset wise, people think, oh, I'm going to work with a bunch of crappy clients system and then I'll graduate. And it's like thinking I'm going to date 6 crackheads and then when I'm ready, I'll date the prom queen. But in reality, all you learn is that like working with crackheads will drive you crazy and you don't learn anything about dating the prom queen because you haven't actually had a real date. So to me, if you want to excel in this business, you got to date the prom queen on day one. And so who are the prom queen clients? I'll tell you, they have 3 main things. Okay. Thing number 1, they're spending money on advertising with or without you, by the way. So you shouldn't have to convince them that they should want to grow their business and they should spend money to do it. They should already be doing it in one form or another, whether that's a website, SEO, pay-per-click, ads, real life shit, radio, billboards, Valpak, Angie's List, doesn't matter. They're spending money. 2, they have a team. Right? This, by the way, excludes a lot of solo operators. I'm not saying every solo operator is a bad client, but I'm saying the clients who will drive you the craziest in general are solo operators. Why? Because they haven't reached the stage yet where it makes more sense to pay people to solve problems, right? And you want clients that are used to paying money to make problems go away, right? So if they have a team, they're going to pay money to go away. And then the third is just attitude, right? Like, do they micromanage you? Are they cool? Or are they grateful? Things like that. By the way, usually even when you close people in video, they'll somehow in an email or a text, they'll reveal themselves as an asshole before actually buying. That lets you exclude them. But I've learned that, like, for example, like if I create an ad on Facebook trying to get clients, I speak to people who are spending money and have a team. So like back in the old days, I would run an ad that said, like, are you broke? Are you desperate? Do you need clients like yesterday? Well, we can help you with my system. And I'd get broke, desperate people. Well, now I say things like, hey, are you spending money on Angie's List to try and get steady work for your team, but all you're doing is competing with 20 other contractors and getting shitty jobs, right? Now I just spoke to someone who has a team and is spending money, right? So like, that's how I call out the good clients. You can do that in anything you're doing, by the way. Or if I was messaging them, like if I was doing cold DMs, as a lot of you guys are doing, like I would click on their About Us page. And if it's only one guy, I know he's a solo operator, right? So yeah. Paul says, in the context of your white label challenge, did you first do the hand raiser in Facebook groups to validate your offer? Yes, I did. And actually, not only did I do a hand raiser, but I got them to tell me what they would be willing to buy. So I have different ways of asking. So if you go in and go, hey, what would you pay me money for? They probably won't answer that question. But a lot of times, like Henry Ford says, like if I had asked people what they want, they would have said a faster horse and buggy. But they can tell you what problems they have. So they can tell you like horses smell, they're too slow, they shit all over the road, it costs a lot of money, I got to feed it, it gets sick. They can tell you those kind of things. They can't tell you what I want as a car always, but they can definitely tell you what's wrong with the existing thing. So I said, one of my most common go-to questions is what kind of jobs, clients, customers, patients, whatever, like, what do you wish you had more of? And then as a separate post, I'll say, what do you wish you had less of? And the one they wish they had more of is the one they'd be willing to buy for you. And the one they wish they had less of is usually the one they're getting now that they don't like. So a lot of my hand raiser is like, hey, if you're getting these kind of people and I can bring you these kind of people instead, would you be interested? And then they go, me. And then I go, okay, offer validated. What's up, fan from Bangladesh? I know a couple of phrases. I know tur kobarki and tume ki korte so, which is what my two Bangladesh friends in university taught me. How would you start with zero money? I think it's a whether you have money or not, like it's a creativity problem, just so you know, right? Because you'll actually reach stages, just so you know, sometimes at the higher level stages, you'll encounter problems where not only do you not have money, but you have a deficit of money. I'll give you a real life example. I had a friend, he was scaling his agency. So they're around, I want to say like 70 to 100K a month, somewhere in that range. So they're doing well, right? And he decided he wanted to get to 300K a month. So he built the infrastructure for 300K a month. He invested all this money in a team. He increased his staff. And this happens often as you're scaling. So the business is making money, but he wasn't. That happens a lot when you're scaling. There's ways around it. There's solutions to that. But the business was making money. He wasn't. And what happened is, so he built all this team and then he lost like 2 or 3 key clients. And so he basically told me I had a week where I had to make $80,000 in a week. 1 week, I got to make 80 grand. So even with money, right? Like you can have a week where you got to make 80 grand. And by the way, he ended up doing it successfully, which was pretty amazing, by the way. But nobody really talks about those things. Like, everybody loves showing off the 2 Comma Club award and things like that. Nobody shows the week where I had to make $80,000 to stay in business. So if I had zero money, I think the first 2 steps over and over, and these are the steps everybody skips, straight to the what tool am I going to sell? What am I going to sell? And that's not the first question, right? Like your business has to have a market-driven reason to exist. In other words, like this problem is underserved. Right. So I'll give you an example of like the difference between too many people doing it versus underserved. And I call this the 10-degree shift. But there was a dude in my hometown. So like I ended up my brother, like I just remember he was having an argument. The Chinese food driver knocked on the door. And then when he left, he smashed into my brother's car and into my brother's car, smashed into my ex's. And before that, she got her dream car, which was a Volkswagen Beetle. And I remember as part of the insurance process, we went to 3 different companies because you have to get quotes for how much it would be to fix it. And they said, all 3 of them said, we don't work on Volkswagens. There are too many specialty parts. Go to the guy on Drouillard Road. So we went through that. We had to go through all 3 just because it's part of the insurance process. And at the end, the guy on Drouillard Road said, I can fix it, but you'll need about 6 weeks. Now, why I tell you this story is because in my hometown of Windsor, Ontario, Canada, they have way too many fucking auto body shops. It's like, it's an automotive city. Everybody, works for Ford, General Motors, or Chrysler, right? So there's all these people that start with, what could I sell? And they go, well, I don't want to work for somebody else, so I'm going to start an auto body shop. And then what happens is they struggle forever and ever and ever after that because the market didn't need another fucking auto body shop. And yet, the one guy who has a 10-degree shift, who just realized Volkswagens are underserved, is backed up for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Okay, so this is why I say if you're starting from zero and you got no money, the first thing you got to do is figure out who do you want to do this for, and then you have to do the research and find their problems. Which, by the way, I'm going to post it in here for. I'm probably going to post this in every chat, but I have a market research bot that'll tell you what they want, and then the question I ask is, what tool can bring them that result? I'll give you an example, okay? Real life example. When I did the water damage restoration thing, most people start with the what? Oh, I could sell SEO. I could sell Google. I could do GHL. I could do missed call text back. They start with the what. What they told me is when I asked them, they said, On most of the jobs we do, we don't even fucking get paid on them because the insurance company dicks us around and they try and lowball us and it takes forever. And then we ended up like having to settle because at some point I need money to pay my guys. And I asked, are there jobs you do get paid on? And they said, yeah, we like these residential flood jobs because they're the biggest jobs that we get paid on the quickest. And so I didn't just go, we'll get you more leads and more sales with Frankie Finn's missed call text back system, right? Or, something like that. What I did is I said, hey, if I could get you these kind of jobs, but just so you guys know, I did an SEO and pay-per-click solution. But one of the things that was different is we focused on bringing them those types of jobs, the ones they actually get paid on. So if you're starting at zero, find a problem that is underserved. That is the most important step one. Just choose who you want to do it for. Find an underserved problem. And a lot of times, by the way, you'll be in busy competitive niches, but still nobody's working on Volkswagens. Like for us, I used to sell motorcycle case leads to injury attorneys. Those are like bigger, high value cases because like when people get in motorcycle accidents, they tend to get fucked up and have a lot more medical bills than if they're in a car accident. And so, I'd have all these people, like we ran Facebook ads. There were 100 companies doing Facebook ads, but we could say, hey, like, are they getting you these high value cases, the ones you actually make money on? And they would say, no. I'd say, well, that's what we want to do. So there's always underserved pockets. So you're starting from zero, find a fucking problem first. Don't start with you and what could I sell to make money, because you'll make a business that is 100% self-serving. And by the way, the auto body shops that just start Me Too shops that struggle forever, like they're Me Too businesses, they started for selfish reasons. We all have selfish reasons to be in business. Like, I don't want to work for someone else. I want to be my own boss. I want to set my own hours. You can have those, but you also need one or two market-driven reasons, including, hey, nobody's really working on Volkswagens. So to me, like that's your first step always. And everybody gets this backwards. They all start with what could I sell to make money instead of who do I sell it to and what are they stuck on. If you start with that, then you bring in the what that'll solve that. You'll make a lot more money. Mr. Sheriff, can we talk through how to do with meta ads in the Loom, sending at the moment at the end of the form or just getting them into Facebook Messenger? That will help lots. Okay, I'm going to answer this, but just so you know, I'm a big believer in psychology before technology. What I mean is understand the person on the other side of the ad before. So here's the truth, okay? If you get what they really want in a video, in an offer, you can sell it through Messenger. You can sell it on a page. You can sell it through email. You can sell it through text. If you miss that detail, then a lot of those. So just so you know, people don't become different people on Facebook Messenger or on Instagram. What I usually do is I actually calibrate the system for where I most want to talk to them. Right. So like if I most like selling through email, then I'll say, fill out this email form to talk to me. If I want to talk to them on Messenger, I'll say, fill out a Messenger form. Now, having said that, the most important detail is actually what I just said to the person before is most agencies skip figuring out what do they actually want? What problem are they actually solving? And by the way, most agencies automatically assume that clients want more money, more sales, more leads, more everything. And part of the problem is a lot of those things they actually don't make margin on because local businesses, especially, which most of you guys work with, have hard fixed expenses, insurance, cost of a building, paying a team, right? So like I know like in the legal space, I can bring lawyers traffic tickets. People like cops hand out traffic tickets like candy. But at the end of the day, after they pay a paralegal, after they pay staff, they don't make any money from traffic tickets. So if I just say, I'll get you more leads and more sales and more customers, like what everyone else does, they don't want more of the people they don't want to make money off, which is why like my famous go-to question is, who do you want more of? Because those are usually the ones they actually have margin on. And so just the little detail between I'll get you more traffic tickets versus I'll get you more $80,000 motorcycle cases. It's like, it's not a small detail to them. So if you have that detail right, and then you send a video, whether you're sending it through text message or you're sending it through whatever, it'll work. But like, I say, go on the platform they're most active on and then make them jump through the hoop that's the easiest for you, which for me is usually Facebook or email or text. But having said that, they all work, just so you know. Like, people don't become different people. I know that probably doesn't answer your question the way you want, but use whichever one works for you. And I have some thoughts on like kind of dialing that process in. I'm going to do some videos for you guys upcoming on that, just like how to dial in the process. Because as much as I love closing on video, it's hard to go from this is the first time I've ever run an ad to strangers just throwing money at you through video. There's usually like a troubleshooting dialing in phase, which requires talking to people. And what people assume when they hear talking to people is they think I mean jumping on the phone. But actually, I prefer to do the dialing in through email, through text, through Messenger for two reasons. One, because it works on my own schedule and I don't have to like, book special time. But also, two, I can go back and reread their answers. So, like, if they say something like, I don't even get paid on these jobs, I can go back and like use that in my marketing copy. Why would you want the jobs you don't even get paid on, right? LinkedIn Sales Navigator says, I have only 1740 med spa owners overall who confess themselves as an owner, sending 5 to 10 connections daily through LinkedIn, hard limit reaches. Tried Facebook groups, nothing working so far. Part of that, just so you know why that's a slow process, is because, like, firstly, like, they're busy. They got shit going on. But also because one of the biggest reasons why most people struggle to sell their thing is because they don't have an audience of people to sell to it. If you have an audience, it immediately gets better. And it doesn't, by the way, it doesn't have to be your audience. I just experienced this like when I would go speak on stages, like you go speak on stage at the lawyer conference, like you can sign sometimes 5, 10, 15, 20 clients, like 20 clients. You got a $2,500 a month thing like we did, and you sign 20 clients, you can add like $50,000 in recurring income in an hour. It was pretty incredible the first couple of times it happened to me until I kind of got used to it. So when you're adding connections and shit like that, what you're really doing is building an audience. And it like, first of all, like there's always a delay in time, right? Like they might not even be that active on the platform. It might take them a week to see your friend request and like confirm, right? And then you might send them a message. It might take them 3 days to see the message. So like, I think too many people have expectations that it's supposed to be lightning fast. It can be fast, but it can't be that fast, mostly because they don't move as fast as you want them to. It's kind of like dating, right? Like you go on a dating app and you start swiping, like nobody's going to fuck you in 5 minutes. But after a couple of days, you might have some connections. And after you have connections, you can like message back and forth. And after you have some messages, you might get to a date. And then when you get to a date, you might like touch her leg or whatever, right? Like it happens in stages. And so you have to look at like friending people just like that. Bro, is copywriting working or AI got it? Please confirm. I don't think copywriting ever went out of style. I actually don't think AI is going to replace it either, because most people, the most important detail of copywriting is the strategizing, not the fucking writing. Like, I'll give you an example of this. I in the early days, I hired a copywriter, a really good one named Ben, and he would like supercharge my copy. Right. So I always thought like if I just got the words right and I said some magic words, it would sell better. And so, he would take words and just like put some horsepower behind them and stuff like that. And a lot of times it didn't work because I didn't really understand offers and strategy and things like that. That part is never going to go out of style. So like, yeah, AI can write good words, but to what end? To what end you have to be able to strategize if you don't know how to strategize, right? Like, for example, like if I went into the restoration space like I did, and I immediately just started with the offer that everybody else starts with is what can I sell? In my case, it was SEO and pay-per-click. And then I said, I assume they want more leads, more sales, more customers, more jobs. And I just start writing that. AI can like write some really sexy copy, but to the wrong end because they don't actually want more jobs, right? Like most of the jobs they don't get paid on. So if I just like write it sexy about a thing you don't really want, which is not getting paid, it's not going to work. So it's like, it takes a level of strategy to figure out like, what does this person really want? I think like if I think AI is a threat to all the people who get told what to do all day long. Like if somebody else does the thinking and you do the executing, AI is going to execute better than you. But if you're doing the thinking and the strategizing and you're telling AI what you're telling AI what to do and you're ordering it around, like you're going to have ultimate job security. Because I have a friend in our mastermind, Dave. He was a software engineer for 30 years. And in 30 years, what happened for him is he said he started when there was no software. And so like there was no HubSpot, there was no Salesforce, there was no CRMs. And so in the beginning, there was all these races, to the arms race, he called it, to get a CRM built so we can track all our leads and shit like that. And he said what happened is after 10 years, all the CRMs were built. And he said all of a sudden clients would come to him and they would say, well, which CRM do I pick? Can you show us how to use it? Can you train our staff? Can you help us set it up? Which one do we pick? Which one's the right one for our needs? And so you're going to see the same thing with AI. It's like there's going to be all these people building tools and, oh my God, this copy. And people are just going to come to you and go, well, which one do I pick? How do I use it? Can you help me set it up? Can you use it for my team? So if you know how to think, which is why like a lot of what we teach in our Wolfpack Mastermind is not how to do shit, even though I got a million tools to help you execute. It's more like how to think, because if you understand how to think, like AI is no threat to you. AI is your best friend, but AI is going to crush a lot of people. I'm sure of that. And according to market research, I found a problem and selected the problem of selling high ticket services. Yeah, I would go even deeper on which specific high ticket services. Can you walk us through what are the steps between the meta ads and the Loom video? I'll tell you how I do it personally. Okay. I take people through 4 steps. I do this on everything that I do. By the way, this is not limited just to Loom videos, but first thing I do is I get them to raise their hand and say they're interested. Okay. So for example, let's say I'm in the restoration space and we have figured out that they want residential category 3 flood jobs. That is the type of person they're most interested. So my ads are pretty fucking simple. They say, hey, who's interested in hearing about how you can get residential category 3 flood jobs? And they go, me, tell me more about that. And by the way, I know they'll buy it just from them saying, tell me more about it. They won't buy it immediately, but I know if I take them through the steps that they will buy it later down the road. And so that's the ultimate litmus test. If nobody will put their hand up and say, me, tell me more about that thing, I know they won't buy it. So I don't need to automate it. I don't need to do all those. So anyways, we run a Facebook ad. We spend $100 to get 6 people who say, me, tell me more about it. That tells me, okay, this is going to work. The next thing I do is I call it pre-selling the plan, which is, okay, so in my case, my plan involves doing SEO and pay-per-click, right? So I know that for them to buy into my thing, by the way, most people don't understand this. There are 2 sales, always 2 sales. Sale number 1, is this a good idea in general? Sale number 2, with me. Most people think most of the sale is the second one, with me, pick me, choose me. But most of the sales, actually, the first one is this a good idea in general? So if I got an SEO and pay-per-click solution, then I need to convince you that if you want residential category 3 flood jobs, that the only right way to do that is with Google and, well, you know, in my case, SEO and pay-per-click, Google, right? Like Google organic and paid, like let's go get some jobs from the Google machine. So I always say you can give away your entire service for free in idea form because it doesn't really matter because they want it implemented, right? But they get a lot of value from the idea. So I would actually send them to a piece of content that shows them why, and I have a format for this, by the way. I call this old plan versus new plan. I go, this is what you're doing now. This is why that sucks. This is a new and better way. And here's how that better way works. And then I finish that with a call to action that says, if you just want us to do this for you, I got a 5-minute video that breaks down everything about how it would work, including the question you want to know, which how much is it? So I would send them to, in my case, probably another video that says, here's what you're doing now. Here's why that sucks. Here's a new and better way. Here's why the new and better way works better. If you want my help, here's how you can get my help. So for example, in my case, like putting in some of the specifics, I'd say their old plan, what most of them are doing is they're trying to get referrals from plumbers, but plumbers in their industry are like prostitutes where they're for sale to the highest bidder. And if somebody comes along and offers them a bigger referral fee, they're no longer loyal to you. So I'd say, hey, you're probably right now running around chasing plumbers, buying them donuts, trying to impress them, trying to get paid for referral jobs, offering them $1,500. And then somebody comes along and says, I'll give you $1,600 and they're not loyal to you anymore. That's why it's better to build a predictable machine with Google, which includes both SEO and pay-per-click, so that when people search for their flood damage and their emergency stuff, they find you, they see their reviews, they see your awesome website, they pick up the phone and call you. And if you're interested in getting those jobs from Google, I got a little 5-minute video that walks you through exactly how it works. Ergo, I go to the 3rd step of the funnel, which is a Loom video. A Loom video, by the way, is just an 80-20 of a sales call where we make an offer at the end. I've beaten that up. And then, by the way, they don't always immediately buy it. So the fourth step is follow up, and there's a strategic way to do follow up. And I say you just go deeper on what it would look like for them. So I would show them their exact keywords, the exact changes I would make to their website, the the how much they would need to spend in their market to make it work, right? Like the specifics help make it real for them. So that's all I'm doing. I'm running an ad saying who'd be interested in that. Then I say, this is what you're doing now and why it sucks. And here's the better way. If you want my help, go to the next one. They watch the video, they go to the next one. Loom tells me, by the way, sends me an email when people watch it. And then I start directing them to here's what the specifics would look like for you. And that's how I guide people through every conversion process. Having said that, though, we got people using Loom like hundreds of different ways. So that's how I like doing it. But I don't like talking to people unless they know what I do and how much it is personally, like not even over text. But you may have a different set of criteria. So we have people who just send out like a 5-minute Loom video by email. And if you send it to enough people, it works. Like if you ask enough chicks, hey, do you want to sleep with me? Somebody's going to say yes. But I think the best way to maximize the process is the 4 steps I just described. Let's fucking go. I see some rockets. Sorry, so I'm just catching up on the chat here. Give me a sec, guys. What is the sequence of messaging a shoe store? I know you first should be the benevolent dictator and do a portion of their work for them, but what happens after that? What if they just say thanks? I don't go away after one, Paul. So shoe stores, for those of you guys who are not familiar with the topic, the idea is really simple, is that if you want to break into an industry faster, the fastest way to do it is to connect with people who already have audiences. So I mentioned, like for me, I'd go speak on stage. By the way, when I was in the legal space, for the first 6 months, I was a nobody. Nobody gave a shit who I was. And when I started speaking on stages and getting into the masterminds where the top communities already were, I went from being nobody to, even today, I still probably know about 30% of the top lawyers in the world. There's more I don't know than do, but I know a lot of them. And a lot of that was just because I got into the rooms where those people are. And so if you want to sell your shit faster, getting yourself into the room is the fastest way I found to do it. And that room usually has somebody who organizes that audience, whether it's a conference or a podcast or a mastermind, or somebody made the software for, like, there's usually like what I call the ringleader, right? Like a person who's organized it. That's what a shoe store is. That person who has organized said community. And as Paul is asking, the way I get in the door is being a benevolent dictator, which is, so firstly, the way I approach shoe stores is always in 3 stages: coffee date, first date, marriage. So coffee date is, let me do something cool with you for free. There's no discussion of money. There's no discussion of my service. Then I will escalate that relationship and say, hey, let me do this for one of your people. That's what I call my first date, because they have a lot of reputation in recommending something. So if I can show them an easy way for them to try it out, and then eventually I will say, let's do this for everybody. And a lot of people approach shoe stores and go right to step 3. Recommend my shit to all your people. I just got an email from somebody who said, like, promote our product and we'll give you some money. Well, I don't know if your product's any good. And so like that's kind of a key detail, right? Like, show me it works for somebody, and then I'm happy to share it with more people, right? So when I'm approaching them, the coffee date is the point of first intersection. And almost all my coffee dates are one of 3 things. 1, if I can't think about what to do, I'll say, can I interview you? Sounds really simple, but like, hey, dude, I love your mastermind. Love what you guys have been putting together. I'd love to just have you on for 15 minutes. So for example, I'm interviewing Sean Clark from Go High Level. It's $1 billion software at this point now. And Sean's cool as fuck, but Sean is, everybody in the high level community knows the owner, or at least a lot of them do, right? And so if I'm with the owner, like, that's access point to everyone else. Okay. So interview is one thing. The second thing I'll sometimes do is, if they're publishing a lot of content, I know that behind the scenes they're struggling with keeping up with it, just for endless number of reasons. And so I'll just do their work for them. I'll write a magazine article for them. I'll put together an expert interview. If they do a free training, I'll just make the training and say, I made a training for your people. Right. And I'm selfishly promoting myself in the process. Like I said, I give away the ideas because I know people will come to me on the back half for help with implementation on that. And then the third thing that I'll do is, if I notice a way to help them sell their thing and I can do it in like 5 or 10 minutes, then I will. So often, by the way, you can sell their shit in 5 or 10 minutes, even though you couldn't sell your own shit in 5 or 10 minutes, simply because like in the case of the Restoration Industry Association, I can think of one of them I pitched in particular. They have 30,000 real legitimate followers, right? So it's a lot easier to sell something when you just say, hey, 30,000 followers, we got some cool new perks of our membership, right? You may be starting out and have 0 followers. So it'll take you time to get to that point. So a lot of times you selling their stuff in 10 minutes. But basically, if the coffee date doesn't go anywhere, like I'll just switch between those 3 things. Hey, can I interview you? Hey, I got something cool for you. Or, hey, I made something to help you guys sell your thing. So that's how I like push those relationships forward, Paul. And then at some point I'll bring the idea up of like, let me do this for one of your people. But it's hard for people to think in steps, but like I say, like dating, you don't like usually walk up to the pretty girl on the street and say, hey, do you want to touch my pee-pee? It doesn't usually work, right? You got to go on some dates. So even though I might be thinking 5 dates later, I hope she touches my pee-pee, I don't say that, in the first 5 minutes. So just like talking to a shoe store, I don't say, hey, I want you to promote and sell my shit to everyone you know. I just say, hey, I made you something helpful. Hey, I'd love to interview you, right? Like we get our foot in the door first. Cortex waves. So identifying problem of my niche and pinpoint the biggest problem and solve it. It sounds like mind-numbingly simple when you say that, but I'll tell you 99% of agencies don't do that, which is why it's so hard for them, because they're fundamentally selling something that should not exist in the first place, which is why it becomes so hard. I guess, how do I steer the conversation to the end goal, which is them shouting me out? Like I said, like in those 3 stages, I hope that made it clear. Sorry, where'd I go? If you already have an online audience and yet to truly monetize it yet, how would you start? I want to work with people 35 and over who have lived experience but don't know how to get attention. I'll tell you what I do. I actually built a tool for this because this is what my whole second book is about. Is like, there's tons of people who have audiences who don't know how to monetize them. So I'm just going to put this in the chat right now. I call this my distribution monetizer. It's a little GPT, but it'll tell you what to sell them basically. And by the way, too many people try and sell things they're not buying. Sell the things they are buying. Like one of the reasons I became an affiliate for High Level, I'm a small time affiliate relative, but I talked to all these agency owners and they kept saying, oh, I use High Level, GHL. I'm like, oh, I should probably sell the thing they're buying. Right. So you want to sell the things the audience is buying and then enhance those things with bonuses. Hey, if you get GHL from me, you get this template. And now you're selling things people are buying, but it makes more sense to get it from you than somewhere else. Even easier in non-tech industries where people don't know how to make offers. Dara says, hey, Frankie, how do we add reply stop messages when doing cold MSS to business owners in US and Canada? I heard it's law, but when we write that, it looks like a scam anyway around that. Don't quote me on this because I have tech people who set up my stuff, but I believe somebody else can probably answer that better than I can, but I believe GHL adds that automatically. If you're using GHL or High Level, actually, it's not really G. But if you're using High Level and you send an outbound SMS, it'll automatically add the stop, reply stop if you don't want to get these. How to contact 100 people for free daily for now, niche based. This is my go-to is I figure out which platform my audience is most active on, which for 90% of you guys is either going to be LinkedIn or Facebook. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, like they're going to be most active on LinkedIn or Facebook. I optimize my profile so it's clear it's for that person, right? Like if I'm trying to sell the dentist, I have a header that says, hey, dentist, get blah, 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 dentist. And there's a website that goes to stuff for dentists. So, I spend 30, 60 minutes optimizing the profile, and then I just start friending dentists. And then I make posts that go in front of dentists, right? Like I always say, like, it's way better if they come to you believing they initiated the conversation than you trying to sell to them. Or if you want to, just start messaging 100 dentists a day. Like there's no like big thing, like grab their email, grab their LinkedIn, grab their Instagram, start. Hey, I can do this for you. Would you be interested? What's a bad example of clients micromanaging? I have many myself. Celia, I'll actually talk specifically to your situation because I've seen some of your stuff. So one of the biggest reasons clients micromanage you actually has to do with something that happens earlier in the sequence, which is your positioning. And so what I mean by that is if they see you as like a menu of services for hire. I can make you websites, I can help you build ads, but they have to come up with the sort of the strategy and the overall big picture and what they want. And you're sort of like a restaurant, like you're just a cook saying, what do you want me to make? Almost all your clients are going to micromanage you. I know it sucks, but it's just how it is, which is why I'm a big believer in be a niche and a specialist. Because you can say, I know how to do this better than anyone, including you. So just follow my fucking plan. And they'll look at you and say, okay. And I'll tell you, it used to drive me crazy. But in the beginning, I sold websites and SEO, and I wasn't very good at it, by the way. And I remember we would sell a website, and clients would pay me between $500 and $1,000, usually in the early days, for a website. Like, we're talking like 2006. And they would always tell me what their website wanted to say and what it needed to look like and all those things. And they would boss me around, and always, like any of you guys have done it, can confirm what I'm saying. They would sometimes I can actually remember a guy sent me a document. It was full of spelling errors. I copied and pasted, put it on the website. And then he chewed me out for an hour about why it had all these spelling errors that he fucking wrote. So that's what it's like being micromanaged. When we switched to, hey, we just do this for plastic surgeons, which was our niche after like a period of time, the plastic surgeons would say, well, you're the experts here. You guys know how to make plastic surgery. You tell me what needs to go on my website. And I go, okay, here's how it's going to go down. I'm going to put this, I'm going to put that. What I need from you is I need good pictures of your procedures, and I need good pictures of you. Send me those. Get on it, doc. And they go, all right, sir. And they actually like being bossed around. They like when you micromanage them, not the other way around. But it's hard to do that if you don't have a niche and you don't have a clear, we're the best at this, even if you're not really the best at that, if they believe you're the best at it, or, the best person that they know for that, you boss them around. So part of it is you just have generalist positioning. So they all boss you around. And there's also a mental side of that. I call that the benevolent dictator, but the benevolent dictator is just like, it's a frame, and you just like, here's how shit's going down. Here's how shit's going down in a benevolent way. I'm going to help you to get you what you want, but like, here's how shit's going down. Right. So like if I was driving you in my car, like the benevolent dictator frame would be like, okay, let me tell you how it works in my car. You're going to sit in the back. You're going to put your seatbelt. We're going to be there in about 20 minutes. I'm going to put on whatever kind of music you want. You let me know what kind of music is your style, but like sit down, shut up, and enjoy the ride. That's benevolent dictator, right? I'm driving us to the outcome. Is running ads more work? Ads are not set and forget thing. There's a lot of pain and a lot of things to figure out inside Meta and your landers and your sales team. Yeah, Meta ads in particular are the least set and forget. Just so you know, I also run Google ads. I run different ads on different platforms, and some of the other platforms are more set and forget. Having said that, I have a simple formula. I use organic to figure shit out. So I hate losing money. I use organic stuff to figure out my offers. And when I have shit like working, ads are how I put scale to it. Ads are how I pour gasoline on the fire. So I think ads are the best tool ever invented for scaling. If you're trying to figure shit out, I wouldn't start with ads unless you got money to burn. If you got money to burn, then like play with some ads and figure it out. But as a general rule with Meta ads, you're going to spend $5,000 to $10,000 figuring it out if you got a new offer before you start getting return on investment. If you can afford that, do it because it works. But if you can't, I wouldn't start with Meta ads. Like Meta ads to me are the scale tool. Hey, Frankie, tried the YouTube thing, but my CPMs are super high. Have you found around 4K micro channels added? Do you separate out in the feed and stream, or let them both mix on a video? No, I don't know. I remember the first option is in. By the way, just I haven't touched my YouTube ads in like 3-4 years, and they still keep working. So it's hard for me to answer that question. Like, what are the settings? When I'm like, well, I set that up like almost 1,500 days ago or whatever it was, 1,200 days, 1,000 days ago. But no, I don't separate them out. So there's a couple of things that I do to make my YouTube ads really cheap. One is I'm showing them on channels that nobody else is trying to advertise to. I call these side door opportunities. So I'll give you a small example of a side door opportunity. Is really a side door opportunity, just so you know, is advertising to the same person but in a different stage. So for example, like let's say I offer shows, right? Like I have like, like a stage show, a Broadway show or something like that, right? Well, imagine I go to New York City and I go to bid on the keyword Broadway show. It might be really, really expensive to like bid on that keyword. And sometimes, as you guys know, like people who go to a show, like it's dinner and a show. Sometimes advertising your show to people who are currently searching for dinner is actually way cheaper than advertising your show directly. And it's literally the same person, right? So what I've learned is, for example, on YouTube, I call these shoe stores, but like, for example, I used to advertise a lot on the CRM in my industry, like the tool they all store their data and their contacts, because anybody who's advertising and spending lots of money needs a CRM. So I knew they were spending lots of money because they were watching the channel about how to use the CRM and install it. And so I'd run my ads on those channels and get them really cheap. So that's the first thing, is where I run them is side door opportunities. Second thing is like the creatives themselves are really just a glorified, what I call a hand raiser. Like, hey, if we could get you this outcome. I do mix in a little bit of entertainment, just so you guys know. Like the way YouTube works is it shows like 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 15 seconds or something like that, and they can skip it. So I try and show them something just kind of funny and eye-catching in the first 5 minutes. And just so you know, I don't do anything funny or eye-catching. I find other funny, eye-catching shit and work it into my video. So I'll give you an example. I have a video where there's like 2 rednecks that are sitting on their front porch, and there's a rainstorm, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a lightning bolt smashes into a tree, and they're like, "Oh!" You could just see them going crazy. So, like, I have one that I run in the agency space that's like, hey, if you want to learn how to close on video, which is kind of like this, and then I switch to that video, and the lightning strikes, and they go, "Ah!" And it like just, it just interrupts your patterns in 5 seconds, and it's entertaining, but I actually wasn't entertaining. Just, I just put something that's already entertaining into my video. So that helps as well. And the other thing is if you keep the traffic on YouTube, meaning like I used to try and send people from a YouTube ad to my landing page, but now I take the elements of that landing page and put it into a video, because YouTube gives you way cheaper traffic if you keep it on the platform. So that's like kind of the formula. So I don't know if that helps you or not, but those are the things I would check. Okay, where are we at? Sorry, where am I at? Where's the last one? Sorry, guys, we got a lot of messages here. What method is better for shoe store outreach? Being the benevolent dictator and doing a portion of their work for them, or naming their baby and asking them if we can work together, or maybe a 2-in-1? Always doing something for them. So I mentioned this before, Paul, but I used to work with an industry association in legal for like 3.5 years. A good friend of mine named Ken. And I got to see that behind the scenes, they produce, like, all the top people in your space produce massive amounts of content, but I got to see what a shit show like producing content is, partly because at that level of scale, they can't produce all their own content. It has to be collaborations, because they just don't cover every topic. Like, they don't know finance, they don't know accounting, they don't know the latest AI tools. So they have to bring in collaborations. They have to. And behind the scenes, people would say, well, I'm going to skip the event this year because it's the same speakers as last year. And so they would go, oh, we need 5-10 speakers so we can sell out our conference. Or we'd have a podcast and they'd be like, we don't have a podcast guest next week. Or we do a weekly training. It's like, we don't know what our training is next week. Can we get somebody? They'd have a magazine and like somebody would bail on writing their finished article. And so we'd be like, hey, we need a finished article and we need it yesterday. So I know if I show up and say, hey, I got a finished article, here it is, or I got the training, it's done for you. Like, I know I'm actually doing their work. So that's partly the other thing is, like, I come in the door with, hey, let's create content together, because I know they're struggling with it. Do I use SMS to reach out to people for homes? Probably not the same use case as you, but I'd imagine it would work. 40 lines per day works well. More than that, and you'll start hitting spam filters. I don't necessarily know on the spam filter reach, but I find that if you really, really think about like really personalizing and making messages stand out from the noise, you'll hit a lot less spam filters. So if you tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to do with that, I can give you a better answer. M.A. Rahman says, hey, Frankie, how do you justify your price while pitching? I mean, in your starting days, how do you compare prices between 2 or 3 clients? Anything important that client can easily say yes to your plan? It's very simple. I think the simplest, most ethical, most real life thing you can promise is that I'll bring you one person. So I got a message from a guy like a year ago. This wasn't like yesterday, but he messaged me in cold outreach and said, Frankie, I guarantee you we can add between $300,000 to $500,000 per month recurring with our cold outreach program. And maybe the guy's good and he can actually do that. It triggered for me like bullshit. No, you can't reflex. But like, let's pretend he was for real. Like, just to keep a client happy, he's got to make at least 300,000. That's $4 million a year. So like $4 million is the starting place of we succeeded, right? So he's setting it up with a super high bar. And so it's hard to keep clients. Like if he makes me $60,000 a month, am I going to say, you fucker, you only made me 60 grand? Fuck you. Right. So I think the most ethical thing that you can promise a client is I'll bring you one of somebody. And so that's my way of presenting price, because price never really matters. It's always what you get for the money that matters. And so my magic line, especially when I'm starting out, is if we could just get one of this person, you would still make your money back. So like when I was selling motorcycle cases, one case to an attorney could be worth $80,000. So it's, hey, it's $2,500 a month and you got to spend another $2,000 a month in ad spend. And if we get just one person, you will ROI for the entire year. I don't sell it as like, I guarantee you we're going to get you a million, blah, bazillion. So in the beginning, I think what's the most meaningful one of something that I could promise them? And that's what I say is like, hey, we could just get you one of this, you'll ROI. So like a dentist, like they have $30,000 cosmetic procedures. If I can just get you one $30,000 case, what would that be worth to you? Paul says, how did the clients that were audience members of the shoe store reach out to you? Typically, Paul, they'll Google you after the fact. Sometimes in the stuff you create with them, they'll put links to your stuff. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But they'll like Google your company name. So in our case, I called it Get Flood Jobs. So they would Google Get Flood Jobs. Make sure you're number one for your own business name. And they'll follow the breadcrumb trail back to you. And they'll say things like, hey, I found you in the blank, blank, blank industry association. And by the way, most of the sale happened even before they hit their website because they trust the industry association. You're part of it. Therefore, you must be good. That's the other thing is you get a massive amount of trust. Currently doing cold email, but it has lowest open rate, like 0, how to fix it. That's probably, if nobody's opening it, it's one of 2 things, or one of 3 things. It's your headline, your preview sentence, or the tech side of it. Honestly, I'm not the best at tech. I can tell you subject lines that have worked the best for us is, hey, first name, or question about, and then business name. Like, it sounds really simple. And then I always personalize the first sentence because if you think about, like, I've been around to watch the explosion of social media, right? First there was MySpace, and then eventually like, Facebook and Twitter, and, there's a million of them now. All of them function the same way. They're based on your email. So when you sign up, you got to give them your email. And they have pop-ups and emails that say, so-and-so is talking about you. There is not a human being alive that can resist. They're talking about you because you have to click it and go, what are they saying? Right? So what most people do when they write a message is they start by talking about themselves. I am, our company is, or they say some generic platitude like, hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Everybody hopes I'm doing well. When they want my money, they hope I'm doing well. When they don't want my money, they don't give a fuck. So to me, that's the other piece is write about them. And I'll tell you my favorite format for doing that is I make this intentionally not grammatically correct, but it says saw you or noticed you. And then I say something about them that I saw or noticed. Saw you just published this. Saw you were just on vacation in Disneyland. And the reason I don't write I saw you, which is grammatically correct, because I makes that sentence about me. Saw you doing blank makes it about you. Ergo, it triggers that they're talking about me. What are they saying? Saw you guys just get back from Disneyland. How was that? Right? Why is he checking out my Disneyland? Can't resist. They'll at least open it. With hand raiser messaging, how do you decide which is the most impactful messaging? I ask them first, or like I said, I use the market research bot to figure out who do they most want. I don't guess at that. I think amateurs guess and pros do the research. So find out, like almost always what they want are specific people, right? You got an online coach. He might have 5 different e-products from $27 to $97 and a $40,000 mastermind. which one of those do you think he wants to sell? $97 ebooks or $40,000 masterminds? Clearly, it's the mastermind. So if I'm creating messaging, then instead of just saying, we'll get you more leads and more sales and more customers, I say, hey, I want to sell your ABC $40,000 mastermind. Like, that's going to be impactful to them, right? Client sells remote full-time employees to U.S. small companies, vets, dentists, franchises, and want to increase their qualified leads on sales demos. Facebook ads is the only way here for something or something else. First of all, there's always more than one way to do it. So you're trying to get remote full-time sales employees. I mean, I think Facebook would be good for that. I would certainly use Facebook. First thing to figure out is who is the right ideal buyer for it. If you don't know that, I always ask them, like, who's buying it now? Which ones do you like? Figure that out and then clone that. If I was using Facebook, if they have a list of people who bought it or have expressed interest, and you can create a lookalike audience of their buyers, like, that's going to be the cheat code to me. Having said that, I mean, like, I've used direct mail. You can use networking. You can sell it through other ad platforms, LinkedIn, for example, Twitter, etc. Like, there's always more than one way to do it. But I would come up with, like, a meaningful offer of, like, get your remote full-time employee, and in the next week you'll get blank, and you'll also get these bonuses, A, B, and C. Like, that's what I would figure out first. If you use a toll-free number, you don't need to add opt-in language. Okay, there you go. Anthony's got an answer for you, Dara. When making your offer like more category 3 jobs for restoration service, how can you technically make good on that promise when customers only know there's an issue and not specifically the type? Usually because if they can tell you the problem, they can tell you the outcome at the same time with not 100% of the time, but like 95% of the time. I'll give you an example. So like Lana works with yoga studio owners. And one of the things she was doing is in the beginning, she was working with all the broke small ones. And I eventually convinced her to work with the big ones that have like 75 locations. And so when we started working with the big ones who have 75 locations, they would say, well, we have these 3 locations on the in California. And they would be like, take this one, for example. They'd say, every Tuesday, we get like 4 people in a class. So they told us the problem. There's only 4 people in a class. And we'd say, well, how many people can fit? And they'd say like 25. So what do you think they want as an outcome? They haven't told you it, but what do you think they want? Yeah, a full class, right? Like, that's what they want, a full class, 25 people. Hey, if we could get 25 people, like, and fill that up, would that be useful, right? So if they tell you the problem, they almost always also tell you what they want. Not always, but most of the time you can infer what they want. So for example, here's a problem a lot of your clients are buying from you guys that you don't know is gaps in the schedule, I call it. So in restoration, it'd be like, I got a crew of guys. I got 3 trucks on the road, and next week I don't have any work for them. That's a gap in the schedule. Like, I'm paying them and I don't have any work for them, right? So if they tell you I don't have any work next week, what do you think they want as a solution? All right. So that's why I say, if you know what their problem is, they'll usually tell you. TJ, what's up, brother? What's up, Frankie? Let's go. Celia says, I had a kitchen remodeling lead, which is much better than my usual niche coaches and therapists. Haha, thinking of switching back to local services. Yeah, it doesn't really matter which one you pick. It's all ice cream flavors. Just pick one that you like working with. That's the most important thing. Paul says, do you talk to the shoe store owners assumptively like you're already working with them? I talk to everybody that way. So that's part of it. Also, like, I'll tell you, mindset, I do expect them to work with me. So it's like, it's not just assumptive language. It's not like just a tactic. I'm like, hey, if I'm cool to you and I do cool shit and I help your business and you help mine, like, why would we not want to work together? Jose says, I stole Hermose's subject line. Hey, first name, quick question about well-known competitor of the lead. Yeah. So just so you know, what Jose's saying as a subject line that works for outreach. What makes that work is the specifics. It's my specific first name and it's my specific competitor, right? So it's like those things get their attention, right? It's like what most people do is they try and do a generic subject line that'll appeal to everybody all at once, and it ends up appealing to nobody. I do have a bot that create personalized email. They start with them, but it ain't working. I bet you if I look at your language, it may be personalized, but I bet you you're talking about you. I guarantee you if I look at your messaging, it'll say, I am, we are, our company is. I get this all the time where people say, I was just surfing the internet and found that you guys do ABC. And that sentence would be stronger if you just said, found that you guys do A, B, and C, and skip the first part where you tell them you were surfing, because strangers do not give a fuck about you. I think cold outreach, like, it works. It's a grind. It's not my favorite way of doing it. I would never encourage people to do it. But I think most people undersell how actually difficult it is, because they get pitched hundreds of times a day. They're jaded. They're skeptical. They don't usually respond to it. And then most people don't even know how to actually do it. Like, that's a storm for difficulty. So, you can do that, but I wouldn't recommend it as like, this is how I'm gonna get my agency off the ground. I use cold outreach, just by the way, to get feedback from skeptical strangers on where I'm at with an offer. I got an objection last week from a lead on a call. I'm not seeing the return on this. I mean, he was okay with the setup fee, but he wasn't seeing how he will get return on the retainer. So a couple of things with that. Firstly, so almost all the objections, including this one, by the way, happen in the part of the process where you present your plan. Like, this is what I'm going to do to make you money. This is what I'm going to do to bring you these kind of jobs. This is what I'm going to do to get you clients. This is a change I'm going to make to your website that's going to make it a better website. Like, whatever it is you're suggesting they do. And almost always the objection happens there, but gets expressed later. So I read this book called Upstream, sorry. Adam something, I don't remember it. But I remember the big takeaway. There's a story he tells in the beginning of the book. He says there's two guys, they're standing by the side of a river, and all of a sudden a little girl floats by and she's like, help me, I'm drowning. So they jump in, they save the little girl, do the Baywatch moment. 2 minutes go by, little girl, help me, I'm drowning. So they save another little girl. 2 minutes go by, another little girl, help me, I'm drowning. This time only one of the guys jumps in the water. He goes to save him. The other guy starts walking up the river. And the guy says, where the hell are you going? Like, the guy in the water. And he says, I want to see who's throwing little girls in the water, or why they keep falling in. I'm going to go stop it where it's happening. Any sort of recurring problem that happens in life and business always happens upstream, and objections are an example of that. So I used to learn all the objection handling scripts. Like, I learned this one when I sold Cutco knives. It'd be like, you agree with the prospect, dear Mr. So-and-so, that's a very valid concern. You just want to get an ROI. And then you flip it around, you go, however, to tell you the truth, blah, 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 here's how you would get an ROI. And that works to a certain degree. But in reality, that objection happened 20 minutes earlier and they just didn't speak it out loud. So I'll tell you, one of the things that I like to do is, when you're talking to a prospect, whether you're doing this over text or sales calls or whatever, and you're figuring stuff out, is to show them what my solution would be before a price. And I say, what do you think of that plan? And I know if there's resistance to the plan, that resistance will show up later, just like it showed up for you. Well, I don't see how that will get me an ROI. What do you mean? If there is no resistance to the plan, they'll almost always buy it. So what I'm telling you is that objection happened 10, 20, 30 minutes earlier, and they just, gave you resistance to that. And then also, like, it helps to contextualize your thing with an outcome. Like, most people sell deliverables. I'll run ads. I'll make you a website. I'll build you some automations, things like that. You want to get clear on what that does for the dentist. I'll bring you, these kind of patients. I can get you 5 or 10 Invisalign patients this week, like whatever it is you can do. And then they'll see the ROI, because if you're selling them deliverables, they have to kind of connect the dots themselves, and they're not marketers, so they generally won't. Paul, when you closed your restoration clients, did you send them like a landing page with a Loom and a payment button, or do you send the Loom and the payment link separately? So Paul, just, it depends where I'm at in an offer. If it's a brand new offer, I lean into feedback. I actually want to talk to them. I'm like the opposite of trying to automate it, because I want to hear if they're going to say yes or no and things like that. So in the beginning, it's usually a custom Loom video. I send it to them, and then I go, even before I mention price and details, I go, what do you think? And if they say, I like it, then I say, okay, good. Now I know I'm on track. If they say, well, I don't know, I don't want to do more SEO, then I know I need to troubleshoot it more. So that's why in the beginning I separate payment links. But once I have an offer that's working, like, I just put it on a page with a payment link, and like, I just get people to buy it. It depends where you're at. So like, a lot of my lawyer stuff is all fucking automated, because I've like sold so many lawyers that I don't need to talk to you, just buy it. So, but new offers, I'm intentionally leaning into feedback. So I don't send them, because the reason I don't send them the payment link, just so you know, is the two biggest objections you'll get are related to, I don't see how that could work for me, and the money. And if I send those all at once, it's hard to troubleshoot why they're saying no. So I usually just like to send them, this is what I would do for you. What do you think about that piece? If there's objections there, then I'll slow down and handle those. And then if I say, here's the money part, then it's a whole new set of objections, like, well, I don't know if I can afford 2K a month or whatever, right? So I try and like separate those things in the beginning. But once I know what their objections are, usually where one person objects is where they all object. And so then I just automate it and like let them buy it. Frankie, does this ever happen to you sometime? Well, it's the first message client asking for, send me details. After some conversation, it feels like I'm talking to marketer or agency. Does agency or marketer handle social media accounts or Gmail on website? Feels like they can steal your strategy. That's how they feel. I don't lose any sleep over anybody stealing my strategy. I mean, I'm sure depending on the channel you're using, what it sounds like is happening in your industry is you're not getting the owners directly. So like I would find a different way to get the owners directly. One of my favorite ways of getting owners directly, by the way, is I send old fashioned snail mail, like letters in the mail. Because you can send them directly to the owner. Like if I'm like there, so it depends on the industry. Some industries, it's easier to get the person directly. Like if you work with contractors, for example, like home services, it tends to be like the owner is the one who answers the phone a lot of times. Like not always, but a lot of the time. If you're dealing with a dentist, it's almost unheard of for a dentist to answer his own phone, right? Like there's going to be a gatekeeper. If you're dealing with a med spas are probably not managing their own social media. There's like probably somebody. So if you message their Instagram, it's not going to go to you. It's going to go to the marketer. So I always like, it's a creativity thing, but you have to figure out how can I get directly to the owner with no middleman. Direct mail is our way. You can load them up in custom audiences on Facebook. You can connect with those specific people on LinkedIn. You can use a tool like Coldlytics to find the owner's specific email. Like there's different ways of figuring that out. But I would get around that. I wouldn't talk to any of their people, but I wouldn't be worried about anybody stealing my shit. Just, I've been ripped off over like 20 years. Lots. Not one person I know who's ripped my shit off has like really done anything with it, because they're always looking for a shortcut, right? And then when they find out like they only understood part of the strategy, marketers tend to miss a lot of the strategy and just look at the conversion piece. So like, for example, like, let's say I go on 4 dates with a chick, and then on the 4th date, I wear a blue shirt and we end up sleeping together, right? Marketers are the kind of people who like, they'll steal the blue shirt date, but they'll miss the 4 dates that happen in sequence that actually creates the, quote unquote conversion, right? So you want to make sure that, you have all those pieces in place, but they're only going to steal one little piece of your thing. They're never going to steal the whole system. You don't need to worry about it. Paul says, how do you get shoe store owners to shout you out the right way? Because I want the shoe store's buyers' interest in me to be maximized. Well, first of all, let me tell you what happens when they actually shout you out. Imagine Warren Buffett gets on TV. He says, hey, I'm investing $100 million in Paul's business, and I think you guys should too. Paul, you're going to be a billionaire by like Friday morning, right? So people underestimate the power of endorsement. I had one in the restoration thing where I had done some cool things to help the guy. And he said, how can I help you? Who are you looking for? And I said, well, I'm just trying to sell some websites and SEO. If you know anybody who either needs a site or is trying to get these kind of flood job types, and we can do that through Google, would you mind sending them my way? Now I'm saying to him, if you know anybody, this guy knows 30,000 contractors over like 20 years. He knows a lot of them. I had a guy in my inbox less than an hour later. He said, Frankie's the guy to talk to. And by the way, when the industry leader says this is the guy you should talk to, there's no sales process. There ain't even a fucking Loom video, right? Because he said this is the person you should work with. Ergo, the guy's just asking like, what do we do next? How do I get started? Right? So I had a $6,000 sale in like 10 minutes with not even a Loom video. Like, can I send you the link in our onboarding form? Like, that's it. So the way you get them to shout you out, you have to understand the big risk for a shoe store. So what most people try and do is they promise them money. I'll give you money if you promote my shit. But what they don't realize is it is actually a bigger risk to lose money than to gain it. So like, say, for example, say somebody comes to me and they have a 4x trading bot, and they say, if you promote this to all your followers, Frankie, we'll give you a commission. And then I promote it, and let's say they rip off all my followers. You think you guys are going to buy the next thing from me, or the thing after that, or the thing after that? You're going to know, fuck that. That's the guy. Like I saw one of those influencers where they ripped off everybody with NFTs, shit like that. Like, you're not going to buy a second thing from them or a third thing, right? So they're always afraid of recommending something. So the way you get around that is you start by saying, hey, let me do this for one or two of your people, and just show you that it works. And by the way, I didn't come up with this. I used to watch my mentor get pitched by people all the time, and he would always say that, do it for one or two of my people and show me that it works. And he would always give them the same one or two people. So like in most industries, 97% of people are risk averse, meaning they only want to try shit if it's proven and it has results, and they can, but 3% of them are the opposite. Like there, I remember being in Ken's masterminds, and there would be some attorneys that would say shit like, hey, is there any TikTok or is any new shit you got? I want to get it first before everyone else. And they'd be willing to try shit because they knew if they got it before everyone else, they would have a, first movers advantage. And so they would say, I don't care. They knew if they tried 10 things and only 2 or 3 of them worked out, they would still be ahead from those 2 or 3 things. And so they were just down to try anything. So I can think of a guy named Greg, a lawyer named Greg. And so Ken would always refer Greg. Anytime somebody had something new, try it with Greg. Greg's down to, and they do that for 2 reasons. One, it's easy to sell to Greg, but also like Greg's not going to come back and hate Ken if it doesn't work out. He's not going to be like, what the fuck? You sent me this goddamn system. I only want proven guaranteed shit. He's like, no, he's more like a shit, I'll try anything once kind of guy. So when you ask them, do you know 1 or 2 people? They're always going to send you the Greg types. They're not going to send you the this needs to work and I'm blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And then you do it for 1 or 2 of their people, and you show them it works. And then you say, hey, I'd like to do this for everybody. And they'll actually happily promote you once they know it works without a lot of pressure. Ike than more bossy coming up. Yeah. You're about to be a lot more bossy, Celia. I like it. Maybe I have to change my offer. I help clinics reduce missed calls and automate messaging with AI. Yeah, you definitely have to fix your message. So you're just assuming they want more calls, and they don't, by the way. This is why I say, like, start with the market research. Everyone just assumes more leads, more sales, more calls, more automation, but automate what? What kind of calls did they actually not want to miss, right? So I'll give you an example. We have guys selling AI voice solutions. The biggest thing they're selling is, especially to those in the contracting spaces, they're selling the eliminate so much of the spam you're getting. They're not selling more leads and more sales and more book jobs and we'll get you on the calendar, blah, blah, blah. They're selling the, hey, you get a call and it's just either Angie's List or a robo thing or somebody looking for a job or, we'll get you top Google. Like, do you get those calls? That's what they're buying, right? So if you don't know what problems they're trying to solve with your missed call automations, you're going to talk about the tools and nobody cares about the tools. It's kind of like, I'll give you an example of why people don't understand the tools. Okay. So we got a guy I do consulting with. He does like 3-4 million a year. And by the way, he just showed me the other day, which I think is a really cool milestone, that he crossed $1 million cash in the bank. Right. So like, that's a cool fucking milestone, I think, anyway. So anyways, he does in the detailing space, they do websites and SEO. So his tool, just like your missed call thing and automations, that's your tool. His tool is websites and SEO, right? By the way, the number of car detailers who woke up today and said, I really need a website. So what he figured out is he goes to a lot of the conferences and he does a lot of podcasts. What he figured out is that a problem they all experience is not unique to his industry. They call it the tire kicker problem. But basically, here's a guy who's working in a shop. He puts flames on cars and he tints windows and he does shit like that and, puts fancy rims on it. And if you want a giant speaker system, whatever, he's the guy. So he does all those kind of things. And the phone rings and he walks all the way across the shop, picks up his own phone. And the person says, hey, how much is it for blah, blah, blah? And then he goes, $1,200. And the guy says, okay, I'll call you back. And he walks back over. And his whole day is like that, walking back and forth the shop floor, being interrupted. Okay. So what Chris figured out, that's the guy's name, Chris. What Chris figured out is that the reason those people call and ask the price is because the price and the packages are not on the fucking website. So there's no other way to find out. So he builds them a website and he puts the pricing and the packages on it. And what happens is their overall call volume goes down, but the intent of those calls goes up dramatically. So now they don't get all the same number of calls, but when somebody calls, they say, "Hey, I saw your $1,200 window tinting packages. I don't suppose you could take me Thursday or Friday." Yeah, we got opening on Friday. Okay, cool. And they schedule, and it's a booking. And so they don't mind being interrupted in their day if people are going to buy, but they don't want to just be answering questions. Okay. So if he tries to sell them the tool, which in this case is a website, he'll say better websites, fast loading, WordPress optimized. And you know how many detailers woke up today in a cold sweat and said, "I really need a website. Today's the day. I just need a website." Like zero, right? They don't think about the tools like we do. You know what they think about? The problem. Oh God, it's another phone call from another fucking tire kicker. Oh my God. His pitch, by the way, is, "Hey, you know how you get those tire kickers all day long where people call you up and ask you for price? What if you didn't have to walk across the shop floor and talk to those people? What if we just made your website have that conversation with them? And then only the people who called you would be the ones who actually want to buy it." They go, "Sign me up," and they get a replacement website just like that. Right. So he's not really selling websites. He's selling a solution to the tire kicker problem. So that's why I say if you don't do the market research and you jump right into the tools, you'll talk about the thing you care about that they don't. And they're never going to care about the tools. They're never going to care about missed call text back and AI automations. You need to be clear about what that does for them. And that's why I built that market research bot. So run that because it'll get you much more clear on that. Once the restoration client's paid, how did you hand the client over to your white label partner? They got like an onboarding automation form dealio. And so I would just like, get them into that. Hey, we need blank, blank, and blank. So I always say like onboarding to me is two things: is welcome them in style and get access to the passwords. The welcome them in style, we did that. I'd send a little gift in the mail, like some cookies. Like, we got cookies. And then the get the passwords and shit, that was all our white label partner. I just use their forms. Jose, gonna ask my girl if she wants to convert tonight. Just don't confuse it as the blue shirt is all I'm saying. M.A. Rahman. Frankie, does client ever talk to you about, "Hey, you promise or guarantee at a first conversation that you'll get me X customers in X range every month, but now it feels like you didn't completing it, the task you say"? How do you handle that client? Any past experience or suggestion? That's a whole loaded topic. Of course, that happens. Of course, if you do this game for more than 5 minutes, you're going to end up with a disappointed clients. It's a loaded thing. 50% of the time, it's the agency's fault, and 50% of the time, it's the client's fault. I'll give you an example of how clients can cause their own problems. Actually, we had a guy who churned out in the restoration thing. Since we're talking about it, I still remember he asked me if we could have a $500. So our service was $2,800. Like for both SEO and pay-per-click. And he asked me if we could do it for 23. Usually that's a red flag because if clients are trying to beat you up on price right in the beginning. But honestly, I said yes, partly because I just wanted to close the challenge and be done being real with you guys. And I probably, if I was going to be in the industry like long term, I probably would have said no to him. But anyways, I did it. And he said, "We really, really want to use our call tracking number because, then we can see the stats without having to rely on you guys, whatever. Is there any way we could do it?" And then I talked to my white label partner. They're like, "Our system is really set up. Like, we'll track it all. We'll do it. We'll send you all the stats. It's all automated. So we're not like hiding anything from you." And then I went back to the client. They were like really adamant. "We want our tracking number," whatever. Okay. He wants his tracking number. 3 weeks go by. He's like, "We haven't had any fucking calls from our tracking number." And then I logged in and looked at it. I was like, "Yeah, we had like 24 calls." And then they had like a recording thing. And I went in and listened to it, and they had never configured it so it went anywhere. So they had a tracking number, and you have to like, click, where do you want this number to forward to? They never set that up. So it literally was just dialing no one. And then I went to them. I was like, "It's dialing no one, like you guys." And then they're like, "Well, what the fuck? Blah, 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 blah." And they like chewed me out. And I'm like, "That's your fucking fault. Like we have a system. It works. We wanted to set it up our way. You guys insisted on using yours and you didn't fucking use it. And then you end up in a pissing match. You guys didn't do what you said you're going to. We've already spent $2,000. I'm like, "Well, what do you want me to do? You didn't have the right fucking number. And I asked you earlier how the campaign was going and you didn't fucking answer me." Right. So like we would have calibrated that sooner. So like sometimes clients are their own worst enemies. That happens, just so you know. Sometimes like you get in there and you try your best to keep people happy and it doesn't always work out. I find what helps is Two things. One is making smaller promises, more smaller but meaningful. Like when we run our motorcycle case stuff, I never said like, I guarantee you I'm going to make you $500,000 in the next 10 minutes. I don't do any of that shit. I say, hey, if we just bring you one person, you'll make an ROI. Now it's like the bar is set as like, let's just get the first one, right? It makes it easier on the fulfillment side. And then expectation setting. I got a whole chapter in my book, but basically you guys got to get on the same page on 5 things. What result are we going to actually get realistically, like mathematically? What do we think we can do? Time, how long is it going to take? A lot of expectation problems are just they thought it was going to be faster than it was. Cost, how much money are we going to have to spend to do it on what? Like including all software tools, ad management fees, etc. Communication, when am I going to update you? A lot of times pissed off clients are not pissed off because the system isn't working, just because they're not getting updates that the system is working. And then what I need from you, Mr. Client. Like a lot of times, like I said, like you need to drive, quote the jobs, answer the phone, send the proposal, like whatever. Like, so, but you know, that's a whole complex topic in itself. And then also like, if you work with more of the right client types, like less of those issues will show up, but that's always possible. Just, you know, like just being real with you. Which is why I'm big on set the expectations smaller, not bigger, right? Like you don't want to make it harder for yourself to fulfill on it. Smaller but more meaningful things. Hey, if we could just close one person. Should there be a fair amount of back and forth between me and a shoe store owner so they're more likely to befriend me? Yes and no. Like I don't make small talk with them, but having said that, like I expect 3, 4, 5 times. These are usually busy movers and shakers. So like part of the reason like I'm able to do back and forth, Paul, is like I literally work with a guy where he was like, hey, I want you to be like a full-time consultant here. Help me with this until we get this thing accomplished. And he was like, you know, put me on payroll for a period of time. Not quite as an employee, but almost like one. And I would send him a message and he wouldn't respond. And then I would see him in person like 2 days later and be like, what the fuck, Ken? You haven't responded to my message. And he'd go, message? I never saw a fucking message. I was like, yeah, right here. And he's like, well, just send it again. I never saw it. Right. And so now when I message a shoe store and I don't hear back from them, like it doesn't even mean anything to me. I'm like, when they were paying me, they didn't even see my messages. Right. Or sometimes I write him this long novel about like something I thought we could do that was a really good idea and like the steps involved. And he would just respond, yes. Like one word, 3 letters. So I expect when you're navigating a shoe store that it's going to take 3 to 5 messages to get them to respond. And I connect with them across every platform because I never know which one for sure they're most active on. So it means you'll see me in my email. I'll be on your LinkedIn. I'll be following you on YouTube. I'll be connecting with you on Facebook. Like I don't just do it single channel either. When you did the hand raiser on Facebook groups, did you nurture the people who raised their hands to close them? Yes, but after the fact, because I first want to find out if they're even interested in that. If they're not interested in that, there's nothing to nurture it about. The analogy I use, Paul, is like, imagine I say to you, hey, my neighbor Wendy is recently single and she thinks you're really cute. Do you want me to set you up with Wendy? That's a hand raiser, just so you know what I just did. If you say, no, Wendy is not my type, or no, I'm not interested in dating right now, or whatever, like she's butt ugly, or I heard she's a crackhead, whatever, like, you know, whatever your reasons for no, I don't need to nurture you. I don't need to follow up with you. I don't need to tell you more about, but you really like Wendy, right? Flip side of that is if you say, yeah, then I know to nurture you, you need more details. Like, when are you going to meet Wendy? Hey, this Sunday I got a barbecue. You want to come hang out? She's going to be there. She really likes poetry. Can you show her your poetry? You know, whatever. I know you're a poet, Paul, secretly. Romantic type that you are. So to me, the nurture happens after I get them to raise their hand. Because if they won't raise their hand, like there's no nurture to be had. So in the beginning, like it's very, very simple. Very, very simple. I like that. If we can just close one more, I just stole that. Yeah, if we can just, yeah, exactly. If we could just get one blank, you would make an ROI. That's usually a good place to be. Sorry, Celia. I don't mean to make all the cheesy dating references, but this is like relationship building. And so there's a lot of parallels to like dating. So I'm not trying to be that cheesy guy. I love that phrase. Used it in my last sales call, made the transition feel much more easy and just jumping to the price. Yeah. Yeah. If we could just get one blank, then you would come out ahead. And if we get one, I promise you we can get more. So let's just start with the first one. You down to try and get the first one? Like, that's it. That's my close. A lot of what I realized through years and years of closing, because I've been through phases, just so you guys know, where I've had a million fucking sales, and I've been through phases where it's very difficult. And one of the things I noticed when it was very difficult, I often treated the sale as a big, heavy question. So it'd be like, so, like, Mr. Prospect, you let me know if you want to get started with this, and you can go ahead and send me, and I'll send you a proposal and blah, blah, blah. And it would treat it as this big, heavy thing. And the more you're used to yes, the more it's just an assumptive, okay, well, if we could just get one more person, this would work out. And then it'd just be like, let me tell you what it looks like to get started. I'll send you the payment link. You'll go ahead and sort that. Then I send you an onboarding form. Looks like this. I'm going to get this, this, and that from you. It'll take you about 15 minutes. And then after that, we'll be off to the races with these things. I'll send you an update the first Friday. Got any questions on that? No, cool. Well, I'll send you the payment link. Let's get the first step out of the way right now. And like, you just talk like you've done it a million times, and it's a normal step in the chain. And I suggest, if you want sales to be more normal, to do that, and don't make it a big, heavy decision. It's like, it's very casual. You'd be amazed at, like, you can close $100,000 plus deals. It's super casual. In fact, I would say, like, the more casual you are, the better you'll close them. If I message a shoe store across multiple channels, would that make me look like I'm pestering them? Depends how you do it. Firstly, I don't always message them across every platform, but I friend them across every. There's a psychology reason behind this. I notice that everybody you mentally classify as a spammer, they all send you one message from one platform. I compare them to like a guy who's trying to get laid before last call. It's like, it's 1:45, the bar closes at 2. Like, he ain't looking for long-term romance or a partnership. He's going, hey, baby, do you want to go home with me? If she don't respond, he goes to the next one. Hey, you want to go home with me? That's how spammers message people. Sometimes they'll add in a, hey, did you see my last message? That's their follow-up game. 2 messages if they're really follow-up. Okay. Everybody you actually want a relationship with and have a real relationship, they almost all fit 2 criteria. One, you can reach them multiple places. Like, I think about my best friend from high school. I got him on WhatsApp. I got him on Telegram. I got him on Facebook. He's got 2 different emails. I got both of them. I got his physical mailing address. And almost always it's multi-touch, right? Like it's more than one message over time, right? It's like, it's not just once and then, okay, off to the next one. So if you think about getting yourself out of the client where clients see you as a spammer, stop being the one and done bar guy going, you want to bang? You want to bang? You want to buy my shit? You want to buy me? How about you? Do you want to buy my shit? Do you want to buy me? You interested in buying my? That's how most people approach getting clients. As where if you approach it like systematically, well, I'm going to follow you. So like, here's a simple thing that I do, Paul, to get out of the spam. Like, I'll just comment on their shit. They'll make a post on Facebook and I'll be like, adorable family. Spammers don't say you have an adorable family, by the way. Only like real connections do. And so what I'm intentionally doing is I'm mentally having them put me in a category called people I want to connect with. So when I friend them across 8 different platforms, they're like, oh yeah, like this is a real connection. They don't know that that's what I'm doing, but that's what I'm doing. Frankie, which industry clients you work with the most? Did you ever reach clients out of USA? Any other country you would like to go? All my clients, for the most part, have been inside America. A few Canada, UK, and Australia, but I'd say like 98% of mine have been in America. So I don't know how to answer that question for you. But there can be reasons to work with other countries. I'm just saying I didn't personally. Josh says, by the way, I'm just reading some of the ones on the document. I haven't even gotten to the questions in the group yet. Question about identifying shoe buyers. Do you look for companies already buying what you sell? Example, I run Facebook ads and they're already running Facebook ads, or company buying adjacent things, Google ads, but not your specific channel yet. Asking because I work with med spas and can run Facebook ads as an add-on offer, even if they already have a Facebook ad agency. I've landed clients before where their existing agency promotes one treatment and we got a different one, but didn't know if I'd make the sale easier or harder. Yeah, as a general rule, just so you know, Josh, there's an 80-20, meaning 20% of the companies. So in your case, you're in the med spa industry. 20% of the med spa owners spend 80% of the advertising dollars. And those are your clients, by the way, those people. 80% of them, they don't spend money because they don't believe in growing. So to me, it's irrelevant what they're spending money on, whether it's Facebook, Google SEO, Google ads, real life shit, the Valpak, Groupon. I don't give a fuck as long as they're spending money, because then I can reasonably make the argument of like, take some of the budget you have over here, move it over here. That's an easier conversation, by the way. Hey, you're spending 100K a month. Like, just give me 5 of it and I'll show you some movement. Is a way easier conversation than trying to get somebody who spends 0 to give you 5K. Because now you have to convince them that they should advertise. And most businesses are terrified of advertising, by the way, in all its forms. They don't want to do it. They feel like it's a waste of money. They need an instant ROI. They're broke. They're desperate. They don't believe in it. They don't do it, And when they do it, they try it one toe in the water and they expect to be an overnight millionaire. And then they're not. And they go, oh my God, the water's cold. And they jump out. So I found it. Jeff Miller calls this $1 million budgets versus $1 million dreams. So does it help if they're already spending money on Facebook ads? Yeah, that's probably going to be your lowest hanging fruit. But having said that, even if they're not spending money on Facebook ads, like as long as they're spending money somewhere, like those are going to make good people for you. Let me just get one more off the the doc real quick. As Vincent says, hey guys, I did it. Since June 15th of 2025, I closed 85 docs for an agency that just turned and burned. We parted ways, but it gave me the passion to once again build my own agency. Hard to believe I'm actually doing this again. Think I need to see my psychiatrist, LOL. But in less than 2 months, we've acquired 2 referral partnerships already, which took us 12 to 15 months to acquire. Which if you get great results, treat them better than anyone else has ever treated them. They love you and stay with you. Our first doc from Texas, we're getting amazing results for. Already referred 3 docs, which is nuts. Onboarding 2 more in the next 3 days. Praise God. So as I take a deep breath and realize there will be days when we go from having $4 in the business to $4,000 in the business account overnight, that's the risk we take as entrepreneurs right when it comes to growing your own business. So my question is, what kind of advice can you offer in 2026 versus the agency world and online digital marketing world like it was 2018? What do you recommend the top things you do to separate yourself from the pack? Frankie Finn is amazing, and his page, I love it, is a tremendous resource for all of us. Yes, I'm doing it again. Well, firstly, dude, congrats. I mean, a lot of times, just so you know, like at a job, your income path is very simple. Like I used to make $30 an hour. I thought it was big shit when I made $30 an hour. I don't anymore, but I did then. That felt cool. If I want to make $30, I work an hour. If I want to make $60, I work 2 hours. Obviously, like there's tax and stuff like that, but $90, 3 hours. And, like sometimes you get up overtime and get time and a half. But for the most part, like you want to make more money, make more time. Agency and online business in general, but like often, like for me, I know I went like 6 months making 0. And then all of a sudden I figured out a sale, and then one sale 2. And then like all of a sudden I'm at 10K a month in like a week. But that was after 6 months of nothing, right? I made $0 for 6 months, and then 10K a month. And then all of a sudden like 10 becomes 30, and it's not and then you lose 2. And it's like, it's anything but a straight line. It's like, it's hockey stick growth. So I understand it can be like that, where you make no money and all of a sudden, holy shit, there's, in your case, $4,000 in the account, woohoo. Right. And those numbers get bigger, just, a lot bigger actually at times. But that's still awesome. What I would say is I actually think there's 2 parts to this. There's the part that never changes. People in psychology never changes. That's why I'm big on like principles of understanding what people want, what they buy, which is almost always the right types of person, because that never changes. That's not going to change post AI either. Everybody's going to get obsessed with tools, and the tools are going to get different, but like human psychology is not going to change through AI. What will change is your ability to automate it, to implement it. But just so you know, if you can just start with figuring out what type of client, in your case, like you're working with chiropractors, what kind of patients they most want, and then you bring in tools and automation, that's the big piece that's changed, is you can do it better, faster, easier, quicker, things like that. Having said that, I don't think what a chiropractor wanted 10 years ago in 2018 is all that different than what they wanted today. They want bigger patients that like pay more money. So I know, like, for example, like Sam Carlson used to work a lot in that. He said spinal decompression was a thing, knee pain, like a lot of the I need 30 treatments, not 1 was, their kind of person. And they would advertise specifically to those types of people. All right, just looking here. John. Sorry. Is it pretty simple to make, let me just, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Paul, is it pretty simple to make content for the shoe stores? Yes. So I'll tell you the biggest piece that I do with that, Paul, is whatever content they're already making, make your shit fit into that. So, for example, one of the things I did in the restoration space is I noticed when I clicked on their thing, they had these 5-minute interviews called Ask the Experts. And they had been super consistent for a while, like 5-minute Ask the Expert interviews. And then they had dropped off for a period of time. Okay. So I went and said, hey, I got an idea for your 5-minute Ask the Expert. This would make a really great session. In my case, it was like how to use AI to make content because I'm selling SEO and content's a vital piece of SEO. So I know it'll lead the breadcrumb trail back to me for people to find me. Plus, I noticed nobody in their space was really talking about AI. I showed it to someone else and they went to another thing and said, hey, we should do a 5-minute interview. Okay. And it didn't work. And you know why it didn't work? Because that person wasn't doing 5-minute interviews. Right. So like you want to make your shit. So like I've also gone to people and like if they publish a magazine, hey, I wrote you a magazine article. Why? Because they're writing a magazine. So I always say like you got to make your shit fit into their shit. So sometimes I'll pitch them on a podcast. I pitch them on a podcast if they're already doing a podcast. Because if you don't have a podcast, I have to convince you to start one and then to have me on it. And it's the convince you to start one that's the much bigger sale. So I just look at what they're doing. And I go, where is there a gap in this? And then how can I give them something valuable? And the way I do it is really simple. It's like I give away my whole system in idea form, knowing that those people aren't going to want to implement that. Like I can show a restoration guy how to rank in Google and get his own jobs without me. He's not going to want to fucking rank in Google. There's a reason why he's a contractor that swings a hammer, work with my hands, drive my truck. Right? Like he's not going to be like, yeah, I want to master Google and do 12-month content plan and optimizing website. So I just show him how to do it. He'll come to me without trying. So John says, I offer revenue operating system installation. I design and install a revenue operating system for founder-led agencies so they can track every conversation, manage opportunity, a predictable pipeline. What is the best way to present the offer? Part of it is you're making it about the system, the revenue operating system. Like all of us have a tool that we wield, or tools, plural. So like GHL is a tool. Okay. For example, I'm not saying you're doing GHL, just using an example. Okay. You know the number of plumbers who woke up today in a cold sweat and said, I need GHL. I need me some fucking GHL. Like nobody. Right. So you got to get clear on two things, which is what problems does your system solve? And if I'm reading you right, if it's tracking conversations, then it's the age-old speed to lead problem, which is clients start talking to them and they ghost them, they cool off, they ask for proposals. Like that's part of the problem side of it. And then the flip side of that is, when you have the outcome in place, like you get used to hearing more yeses. It becomes more formulaic and predictable. I'll tell you as an owner, like what I like is when I have it in a report and I can look at, we had this many conversations, we closed this many leads and blah, blah. And I can tell where our sales are at in like 6 seconds by just looking at a little 1-page report. But you got to show them firstly where they're losing money without your system, which by the way is their problems now, not what they can gain tomorrow. By the way, most people are buying their way out of their problems. If they really felt like, holy shit, I'm losing $10,000 a month in business because I can't track this shit, they'll pay you. But you can't tell them about the system because they're never going to care about the system. And they never will, by the way. And that goes for all of you guys. They're never going to care about your system. You care about the system because that's what you got to actually do to deliver a result. But they will never care about it. Paul says, is the blueprint for messaging shoe stores be benevolent dictator, do their job for them, ask them to work one or two of their buyers, ask them to shout you out? Like, yeah, more or less. That's the blueprint. Hey man, join late. Can you explain what a shoe store is? Sure. So I'll take this 2 levels for you to explain what a shoe store is. Actually, I'll use a different analogy. Actually, sometimes I call a shoe store a grocery store. So I was like 12, 13 years old, and I got a job selling chocolate bars door to door for the blind. And part of the reason I got it is back in those days. So I grew up in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. We have a thing in Canada, a social insurance number. It's kind of like a social security number for those of you guys who are American. But basically, you can't get a job until you can get one of those, and you can't get those until you're 15. So I couldn't get a job like 12, 13 years old, except one day I was flipping through the newspaper. I was looking at ways of making money. I found a thing they would pay you a couple bucks to stuff envelopes and lick them, and there was like deliver newspapers. You could do it for cash, although there was already a like 20-year paper boy in my area. So I was like, how can I make some monies? And then I saw this ad and it said like sell chocolate bars door to door for the blind, cash only, any age. So that was like literally the only job I was qualified for. So it led me into this world where I did door to door sales, which, by the way, like a lot of people, when you guys do cold outreach, if you actually do door to door sales, which sucks, but if you do it, you'll get way better at cold outreach simply because you see people's reactions in real time, which a lot of times you send a cold outreach message, you get no response. But in my case, like you knock on doors. So we did that like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. You grind and actually most of the shift is not spent selling. It's spent walking. You're like walk from one house to the next. It's like only about 10, 20% is selling. Like 80, 90% of it is walking. Anyways, once a month, our manager would go to the local grocery store. So there's a chain of grocery stores in Canada called Zehrs. There's a few chains, but that's one of them. We would go to Zehrs and he would ask the manager, hey, we're selling chocolate bars for a good cause. Can we stand outside your doors and sell them? The guy would always be like, yeah, sure, go for it. So we'd stand outside the doors. And this was like before the days of debit and credit cards. Not like everybody had cash. You went to the store and you only bought it cash. So like every single person who walked by us had cash in hand and got in their car to go buy food. So it was the easiest sale I ever made in my entire fucking life. Like sometimes I wouldn't even give them a pitch. They would just say, how much are they? $3. I'll take 2. And that's it. Like that was the pitch. And every 5 seconds there would be a new buyer. And so what would happen effectively is that in 10, 15, 20 minutes, every single kid would be sold out of chocolate. And my manager had this like Geo Metro, the shitty little tiny car. We'd illegally put 6 kids with not enough seatbelts, and it would be like literally filled to the lid with coolers and chocolate bars, look like a clown car. And then everything that fit there, we were sold out in 10, 15 minutes. And my normal experience, 30 days a month, we would grind. We would knock on doors 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. And I would make less money doing that than when we would just stand in front of the grocery store for 15 minutes. So I was always like, I think his name was Mark. I remember the guy, but let's call him Mark. I was like, Mark, why the fuck can't we just go? Like, there's 100 grocery stores in town. Why do we got to knock on doors? Let's just go from grocery store to grocery store and ask them if we can stand outside. Like, for me, I would make like about $50 on a shift, which, for like 12-year-old me was a big deal. I could buy candy and video games, which is all I wanted. And so a shoe store is like going to the grocery store. What it is a place people go to buy the kinds of things you sell. So there are there's 7 different categories of these. The first category is expertise. So regardless of which industry you're in, they're already buying expertise from someone. So there's courses they buy. There are masterminds they go to. There is a consultant they hire. There is a coaching program. Okay. Secondly, they go get information. Somebody sells them a book. Somebody makes them a podcast. Right? Somebody's got a YouTube channel. Then there are the ass category, the associations, especially if you work offline. There's my case, the National Trial Lawyers and the Personal Injury Lawyers Marketing and Management Association, or the Restoration Industry Association, right? Like they join associations. The fourth are communities. So like typically on LinkedIn or Facebook, they like organize into groups and communities. Sometimes in like certain niches, they actually do it in this fancy thing called real life. They meet together in real life. They also buy tools, software, and suppliers. So like somebody makes the CRM, or if like somebody makes the physical tools, right? Like a dentist, he has a pokey thing. Like somebody supplies him with a pokey thing. The roofers, like somebody makes the shingles and somebody makes the CRM and et cetera. Then there's like the meetups, the events, right? So somebody has a conference in your space. Somebody has a retreat, somebody has a workshop. And then there's the services. There's people selling services to your people already. And not just marketing services. Yeah, like SEO, pay-per-click and websites and things like that, but also like financial services and accounting services and legal services and real estate shit and investing. And so what I found is if you sell to the sellers, the people, the shoe stores, those 7 categories, you can often get into an industry way faster. So I'll give you 2 examples of this real quick. One is like for me, when I started getting invited to speak at the legal conferences, it was very rare that I would go to a legal conference and not add at least $10,000 a month in 1 hour speech. Because for us, like we sold a thing, it was $2,500 a month. That was 4 clients. I go talk to 800 lawyers in a room. I get out, I go to the back of the room. There's 4 lawyers waiting to buy my shit. We just added 10K a month. Yay me, right? So that was like a really common experience, right? And so I realized if you wanted to sell your stuff, like getting into the conference will get you ahead faster than any amount of knocking on doors. Just like, going to the grocery store will sell you more shit. And it's a different approach going to the grocery store. It's not necessarily harder or easier, but it's just different. Like pitching the grocery store is different than pitching the end user. The end user is a direct sale. Do you want to buy the chocolate bar? The grocery store is, can we add something to your community, following, buyers, whatever. And so it's my favorite way to grow an agency is to get myself in everybody else's distribution. I'll give you an example. Rochelle from our mastermind is working with roofers. And what she figured out is in one of the categories called suppliers, that any roofer who spends money and buys a lot of volume, they have to buy shingles, right? Like roofers like literally buy shingles. And so she's going to the shingles stores, like the places in her area in Texas where they have shit tons of shingles, and she's making little in-person presentations showing them how to generate leads and sell a bunch of shingles to the people who are already buying them. And so she gets in front of all the roofers spending money, all of them. Like they go in to buy the shingles. Hey, while you're here, can I show you something? And it's a value add to the store, right? So that's how she's getting clients, is she's doing it through shoe stores. And by the way, it doesn't have to be done physically in person. She's just doing it because for her, it's a 10-minute drive. So that's an example. Let me just catch up a little bit on some of the document questions so I get these. Tala says, what is white label? Explain to me in simple words, and what is the cost in the process? White label is like a subcontractor. It's an industry term, but like, I'll give you an example. Like, say there's a home builder. They get hired by a homeowner to build them a home, and they're a construction guy. There are often parts of the home they don't do. They might not do electrical. They might not do plumbing, right? Like those are 2 examples. So what they do is they bring in a subcontractor, a plumber, an electrical person, and they put a spread between it. So like say the plumber is $25 an hour, they might charge the homeowner $35 an hour and keep 10 of that. That's essentially what a white label partner is. It's like, it's somebody who already knows how to do SEO, pay-per-click websites, whatever you're trying to sell, Facebook ads, and you subcontract them out so that you can primarily just focus on selling, and you have somebody in your back corner who can do the fulfillment. The pricing and the setup varies from person to person, but we do have a list of people if you're interested in that. Let me just read one more from the doc, and I'll get back to the chat in a second here. Mike says, my day job is financial controller of a bespoke van conversion company. We have an awesome new marketing director who has massively improved the volume and quality of leads. Typical sales value of van can be anywhere from 80K to over 200K. So high ticket, but current sales staff tend to be recruited from car main dealers and are not converting the leads they have or acquire good product knowledge to help the customers with design choices and maintain contact through the 3-month build process. So they're more like account managers, really. What would you recommend as a better way to improve the conversions? Hire remote, experienced, high-ticket closers who then pass on the deals to the account managers. Well, you basically got 2 ways of dealing with that, Mike, in my mind. Way number 1 is you get better people and better systems for closing. So that's like better hiring, better screening, better process, more meetings about it. Or you can do what Big Daddy Loom over here would tell you to do, which is digitize it. So the first thing I would figure out is like, what kind of offer gets people to want to buy this thing, right? Don't depend on the salespeople. Like really good companies, by the way, they make offers do the selling and not salespeople. So like if you think about McDonald's, McDonald's sells more burgers than any other place on earth. They don't need consultative salespeople. They just need a pimply faced teenager, which is why the offer on the sign, get 2 McDoohickeys for $4.99. The offer is doing the selling. Apple, by the way, Apple sells a lot of phones, probably more than anyone else. You know what Apple doesn't have? Trained salespeople. Isn't that wild? Right? It's a higher ticket purchase too, right? Like a new phone's probably $1,000, right? They're not depending on salespeople to know what they're doing. They're depending on the offer. The phone, this isn't a brand new phone. It can do A, B, and C. If you can store your songs in your apps, right? Like, it's the offer that's doing the heavy lifting. So to me, like, come up with an offer that can do most of the heavy lifting, and then figure out how to digitize that, and at the very least, warm it up for salespeople. And ideally, get the salespeople out of your machine altogether and replace them with digital salespeople and automation and follow up. And when ready, pass them to the account managers. But I think you could do that without salespeople. It'd be tough to give you all the specifics without seeing your setup, but I would try and get salespeople out of my machine. M.A. Raman. Frankie, in your Loom video class, you showed a picture that in early days, I showed a business owner, hi, you paid 40 grand for your website, but your dentist chair, I'm not remember that chair. I see Paul. Dude. So my question is, how would you know that he pays that much? How do you find that? I mean, if you don't know the pain point. We asked him. That's what they told us. So like, if you want to know what they're spending money on and they hate, you can like just go into a community. You don't have to have any clients to do this. Like if you're trying to sell dentists, go into a dental community and say, for those of you guys who are advertising your dental clinic or spending money marketing your dental clinic, what's been the biggest waste of money? And they'll tell you exactly what and how much they spent on it. Did I close any restoration clients on Facebook when I did the hand raiser? Yes. Yeah. We closed them different ways. Most of them, by the way, found us through the shoe stores, reached out through our website, and were closed over email. But there was a couple we did over Facebook. How to get over the fear of criticism while making content? Just a simple understanding. It's not about you. I had this conversation. Some of you guys will know him. Jonathan Mast is a friend of mine. He's a bearded AI guy. He's got like 1 million followers. He's very well known in the AI space. Anyways, he started making content in his car on his phone. And he literally just started answering questions. And we were sitting at dinner and somebody said, I want to make content, but same kind of thing. Like, my hair looks stupid. And, I hate my voice sounds all nasally and I got a pimple and, what would I talk about? And he said, I'm a bearded fat guy. You know who cares about that I'm a bearded fat guy? None of them. They just want to know how to use AI. They're listening to my content for the value they can get from it, what they can get out of it. So biggest thing I tell you about content, it's not about you. Just start answering their questions. They're going to, like, you guys aren't listening because I'm so dynamic and charming, because you get, this is where else can you ask agency questions and get this kind of information from somebody who's actually done it for a long time. There's not a lot of places that you can actually ask somebody who's done it for a long ass time, right? That's why you're here, right? Like I look at it, my hair is a little I haven't like done my hair yet. I'm a little sweaty. I got some armpit sweat. Did you guys care that I had armpit sweat? You might now. You might not listen now, but you probably didn't even notice until now, right? So you will get criticized in your content. Usually, by the way, you'll never get criticized from people doing it. You get criticized from people like on the sidelines, the haters. I usually just have fun with the haters. Like I do. I see it as a sign of progress. When people criticize you, it's like, whatever, it's fun to me. In your Loom video, do you mention that an ad budget is needed on top of the $2K a month to pay you? Yes, if that's what's required. If there's an ad budget, I tell them like the total spend. I always like to just like, here's what it is. If you want it, take it or leave it. But then I make the offer, like make you want to take it. But yes, I lay out all the, and always, I say, whenever you mention the money, contrast what they're going to get with it. Because it's never about the money. It's always about what, and by the way, people think there's some imaginary line. One of the first times I saw a guy close entirely on video, I watched a guy sell 5 different $100,000 consulting packages. It was a lawyer guy. He was selling like a done for you TV package where he had this winning commercial, and they had used to work in TV and they knew how to sell it. And a couple of the lawyers said, well, I don't really want to use your commercials because I like my commercials, but I'm interested in how you guys buy media because you used to work for the TV companies. I know you know some tricks to get us cheaper ads. And they said, do you do consulting? Can we hire you for consulting? And the guy said he used a formula I call the IVQ formula, which is you tell him the price as an investment. You contextualize that with value, the V, and then the Q, you say who it's for. So he said, yes, we do consulting. The investment is 100K. So that's the I part of it. Then he said, if you're spending at least $100,000 per month on TV, that's a qualifier. And he said, if you're spending at least $100,000 a month on TV, we can cut your bill in half. And so you'll save at least $50K a month. And I watched 5 guys go, me, $500,000 in sales. Like no call, no close, no talk, no nothing. Certainly stretched my mind for what was possible at the time. I didn't know you could sell $100,000 shit without like talking to people, but the investment was $100,000. Works really, really well if you're spending at least $100,000. And if that's you, we'll save you at least $50,000 a month. No brainer. Why would you not spend $100,000 to save $50,000 a month? 100,000 one time to save $50 a month ongoing, like no brainer, right? So that's why whenever you do tell them the price, ad spend, just contextualize it. You're going to get something of greater value for the money. Did I send direct mail to shoe store owners? Not generally. No worries. Been in the game 7+ years, so I get it. How did I do that in a week? Which part in a week? I missed what I was saying at that point. Is pay-per-click and SEO close to the golf hole? No, it's actually really far. But I'll tell you why I sold an SEO and pay-per-click solution in that particular industry, which is so close to the hole, just so you guys know. If you think of like high ticket sales, like a golf course, in golf, you generally start like really far away from the hole and you got to hit the ball really far. And then as you get closer and closer, you use clubs that are more like specialized for short distance, right? And almost every business thinks they need new people in the business. And in reality, they haven't really optimized the things that are close to the hole. I'll give you an example of this. I had a roofer friend. I wrote about this in the book, but it's a true story. His name's David. And he messaged me. He had just bought a roofing company and he's a serial entrepreneur. So he like buys all these companies. So he was in Los Angeles and he bought a roofing company that was doing like 100K a month and netting like 30. So he was expecting to be making 30K a month. And it closed in March of 2020. I don't know if you guys remember, but the world went nuts in March of 2020. Thing went to shit. And so instead of making 30,000 a month, he was losing 30,000 a month. And he called me in a panic and said, Frankie, I'm going to have to give this thing back to the bank. Is there anything we can do? I need to get more new jobs. And like most people, by the way, he assumed the only way to do that was to drive the ball 450 yards and get strangers. Now, I know from experience that there's close to the whole options. So first thing I said is, has anybody ever hired you in the past? And he said, yeah, we got 17 years of clients here. And I said, where is it? And he sent me a picture. It was a back room full of boxes of invoices. I said, can you digitize it? And he gave it to his assistant. It took her a week. But she eventually got all that data into a spreadsheet. Nowadays, you could actually use AI and just send pictures to AI and get it to output it in a table. But that's a whole other story. That option wasn't on the table in March of 2020. So anyways, he sends me the spreadsheet. I loaded it up in my email autoresponder, wrote this email that was like this. It was like something like this. It was just like, hey, it's your roofer. I know we haven't talked in a long time, but I miss you. I was wondering, is there anything I could help you out? Either you or friends or family. Like, do you got any leaks or any jobs you've been putting off? Would love to reconnect and see if I can help you. So I sent those things out. I didn't even talk to David for like 6 months after that. 6 months later, I go, dude, like, how you doing? And he says, oh, I forgot to tell you, but that email campaign you sent made us a few $100,000 and kept us afloat. Like, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Okay. The reason that worked is not because that email was so brilliant. It's because that 17 years of boxes was everybody who's ever given them a credit card. That was close to the hole. Those are people who don't need a lot of selling, right? Like, my favorite restaurant doesn't need to sell me. I already know the food's good. I already know you guys. I've already been there. I've already paid you money. You just got to invite me back one more time. So the only reason I did far from the whole SEO and pay-per-click solutions is because water damage restoration is an emergency service, and you need it when you need it, and that's it, right? So like somebody goes from I don't need it to holy shit, it's raining in the living room, somebody get here fast, right? And that's the reason I use Google and SEO, because and pay-per-click is because when they have the problem, they go straight to Google and go, what the fuck do I do? It's raining in the living room, right? Call a restoration contractor. Okay. Right. Like that's how they get there. But I wouldn't, in most industries, I think you can make way more money doing close to the whole stuff. Agency founders can see, track, and manage every revenue opportunity in one system. So they recover lost deals, increased follow-up discipline, and see real pipeline value. How do I present this? You're still kind of like lukewarm about what the real problems are, right? You're clear about what your system is, but you're not clear about the problems they solve. Like I said, like I would run my market research bot. I'm going to put it in the chat because you're speaking the language of your solution, but you're not speaking the language of what's happening for them right now. And I'm currently doing outreach through email. On average, how much do roofers need to spend per day on Google ads? Do you target the highest bid to get your client to the very top sponsored spot? I don't run any ads for roofers, but we do have people doing it. I mean, there's a lot of it depends on that. So firstly, like if they're in Texas, that's going to be way more money than if they're in Frog Balls, Arkansas. How much work are they trying to get? You know, there's a lot of variables in that. But I would say as a general rule, I wouldn't take on a client who's trying to spend less than $100 a month on paid ads because you just won't get any traction. And then as far as the highest bid, not usually, like just talking to our own personal strategy, I don't try and be the highest bid. I try and write the best ad. So one of the first things I do, like if I'm going to enter a market, is just Google like what all the other fucking roofers are saying and figure out how I can stand out from the noise. To get 50 to 100 leads. If you're trying, 50 to 100 leads, like at the very minimum, you're probably going to be in the $100 to $300 a day range, depending on, which market they're trying to do it in. But it's hard to say without, if you want, I can talk to some of the people I know that do this in roofing and ask them. Ramana says, do you need to record Loom video twice if you're targeting two different countries? I'm targeting the US, so local searches and the US flag shows up in some cases. Want to target the UK as well. Thoughts? You can do both. People understand what Google is, but it might be useful to do both. Max says, anyone here got experience running ads to get clients? Outreach is soul taking, looking to see what I can do with ads. Yes, just so you know, I have spent literal millions of my own money getting clients through ads. And as I mentioned before, I like ads more for scaling than figuring out. So what I mean by that is, when I have an offer that's working, I use paid ads to pour gasoline onto the fire, but I don't like running ads right out of the gate because you'll almost always lose $5,000 to $10,000 figuring it out, which offer works before you get to it working, which is great if you're sitting on 10 grand. But usually when you're first starting out, most of you guys don't have 10 grand to lose on ads. I believe that winning ads come down to 5 main components. The first and most important component is who you actually target. If you run ads to people who don't spend money on the kinds of things you sell, you're just going to waste your time and a lot of effort in the process. 2, what do you actually offer those people? That to me, like those 90% of the variables I'm trying to figure out in the beginning is who I'm offering shit to and what am I offering them. Then there are the medium-sized pieces, which are what image do you use to catch their attention, as well as like the copy, the messaging you use to spice it up. And then the last piece, I believe this last piece is going to become more important as time goes on, but is the repetition factor of like, how many times do you show them your shit and your brand and your ads and your offer? Simply because like 100 years ago, you could operate in a place where your advertising might be, you set up a stand and it says blacksmith. That's it. That's your whole advertising campaign. You got a fucking sign that says blacksmith. And that was probably enough. In this day and age, there is more noise online than there ever has been. And not just online. Like if I go on Netflix, it takes me 10 minutes to figure out which movie to watch with my kids. Facebook, million fucking posts. And now their algorithm's showing me all this unrelated shit I didn't ask for. YouTube is crossed a point now where they actually have more content, more videos on YouTube than people to watch it. And then there's real life. When I was growing up, TV had 4 stations. Now there's satellite with 1,000. Radio has 1,000. So there's more shit. Like they drive down the highway, they see billboards, more billboards than they've ever seen. So I believe there's more shit competing for people's attention than ever before. And the only way to stand out from that noise is to repeat your message. So in other words, retargeting. I would never try and run paid ads without having extensive retargeting. So those 5 things: target people who have a proven history of spending money, make them an offer that makes it easy to say yes, use an image that gets their attention in the right way, that shows them something they're going to actually want to buy, put some flaming sexy copy on it and repeat it, and expect that repetition will be needed for it to break through. You do that, paid ads are fucking awesome. I spend, I have my shit, just so you guys know, was seen about 100 million times last year on paid ads. Sorry, not last year, over the last 3 years. Like actually, now that I think about it, but still 100 million times. That's not too shabby. So, we know a few things about spending money on paid ads. And I'm talking my own personal stuff, not just, like client shit. I've spent 10 times that in client money. And what most people, when they talk about advertising, they'll talk about the technical aspects of the platform. Did you use this campaign setting or that one? Did you only scale your winners by this much? I think it's still the basics. It's like right person, right message, right offer, right time, good amount of repetition. Let me just get one more from the doc and then we'll come back to the chat. Paul, what AI website builders have you tried and liked? Have you tried Base 44 and Emergent so far? We're using Lovable and we got our own custom prompts. Honestly, once I find a tool that works, I tend not to shop around. So like, I'm sure there's other tools that can do it, but Lovable is the first one I came across. So that's the one I like. Let me just see where I was at. What is your best B2B advice, ads advice? There are definitely differences between B2B ads and B2C. B2C, like when you're blasting to consumers, tends to be easier and more straightforward in most times. B2B is different because almost always there's an education process involved, right? So like if you think about agency services, like if you're trying to sell a voice solution, they don't always even know what a voice solution is. So there has to be like an education piece involved. So, I mean, the reason why I'm so big on shoe stores, because I think it's the fastest way to break into any industry. And the example I use with it, looks like your name is Judd, or at least your username is. Imagine there's 2 farmers. They're trying to sell eggs. Farmer Andy, letter A, Andy over here, does what everybody else says you got to do. So he knocks on doors and he stands at the side of the road and he comes up with cool offers and he pitches his eggs all the time. And farmer B, Bob, over here, believes, as I do, that in the B2B space, distribution is more valuable than money. So what he does is he focuses on trying to get stores to sell his eggs. So he goes to Walmart. Hey, I can supply you with eggs. Goes to Whole Foods. I can supply you with eggs. Goes to Meijer. I can supply you with eggs. Goes to Trader Joe's. I can supply you with eggs. Goes to the farmer's market. Hey, I can supply you with eggs. And let's say on like day 4, he gets a call back from Whole Foods. Okay, supply us with some eggs. You can have all the stores in the southeastern United States. Who's going to sell more eggs, Andy or Bob? Bob, every time, because he got distribution. So I'm a big believer that distribution is more valuable than money. And so what most people do is they try and sell their B2B thing, when I think is what you should do is try and sell distribution. In other words, shoe stores. You get your stuff sold in. So when I run ads, I target shoe stores. When I do organic, I network with shoe stores. When I go to get referrals, I work with shoe stores. Why? Because I just, it's for me, it's real lived experience. My first 2 agencies blew up from a shoe store. Like I went from almost broke, and like I literally, my first agency, I was sleeping on my girlfriend's couch, and then a shoe store came along and we were doing millions. So I had a guy who, he was in the plastic surgery space. He was a service provider. He sold websites. He sold like 400 websites a year to plastic surgeons. He went to every single conference to conference, sold a lot of websites. And a lot of them were saying, can you help us rank our website? And he didn't do that. And so he was looking for someone to subcontract, which today is called a white label partner, but the term didn't exist. He just wanted somebody he could pimp the work to. I came along and said, hey, I can do that for you. And we worked together on one client. He liked it and eventually gave me his whole roster. That guy sent me 100, 150 clients per year, like more than one or two of them. And I only had one shoe store, just one partner. And then my second agency grew up because I got connected with the guy who owns the legal association, PILMA, it's called, the Personal Injury Lawyers Marketing and Management Association. Between being on his webinars and doing his stage talks and networking with him in person, like shit blew up like really, really fast. Also makes all your ads work better when you can say, hey, you may have seen me in the Personal Injury Lawyers Marketing and Management Association, right? It's like it makes you more legitimate in their eyes than had you not had that. So when I do B2B, like I'm all about shoe stores for credibility and everything. I could probably do a whole sermon on them. But what I try and do is I get my stuff in there organically, and then I turn that into paid ads and I advertise it to their audience. So it's like, it's a couple of steps, but so for example, I wrote an article for Attorney at Law magazine. I just, hey, here's a free article. They publish it. Now I run an ad and it says, hey, read this article in Attorney at Law magazine. Then I retarget those people. Now I'm the author speaker, not just the dipshit on the ad system trying to sell you. Kind of like, I look at it like, imagine I went and did something. I wrote something on Alex Hormozy's blog, and then I advertised, hey, you may have seen me on Alex Hormozy's site. It's just going to work better than if I didn't do that. In the 90-day challenge, did you send direct mail to the shoe store buyers? Some. I sent mail to everyone who said they were interested and didn't convert. And some of those people, by the way, converted a year later from the letters I was sending in the mail. Lazarus, what's up, brother? Roof leads on Google can be around 150 or more depending on area. Yeah, that's why I said it's a very much, it depends which area you're doing it on. Frankie, does your Loom conversion machine program go over the shoe store stuff and niche help? Thinking of going forward with it. Can you maybe explain everything in it? It doesn't, but if you want, I do have some stuff on that, and I'm happy to include that as a bonus. G Money, what's up, brother? What was the close to the hole method you mentioned for your lawyer clients? Close to the hole. So what I realized is there were all these lawyers that spend. So I'll tell you how I figure out close to the hole stuff. So the first thing I ask myself is, do they have anybody buying it right now? And can I do anything with those people? Then I go, do they have anybody who bought it before? Can I do anything with those people? In my case, both of those were a little tricky because they're car accident lawyers. People don't usually call a car accident lawyer unless they've had a car accident. So it was actually kind of difficult to do something with past buyers. So I went back. Then I go, do they have anybody who almost bought it? And then I was looking at it and I was like, some of my biggest clients, they have shit tons of people who almost bought it. So what they were doing, for example, is they'll spend $300,000 a month in ads and media and shit like that, driving people to a website. And if you guys know anything about traffic on a website, especially for like a local business, 95% of it, 96% of it doesn't convert. So that means they'll spend $300,000, and of every 20 people who go there, like 19 of them don't buy. And it's the most expensive niche on earth. So I went, what if I retargeted the ever living fuck out of these people? And like some lawyers do a little teeny tiny bit of retargeting, but I was like, no, I want to retarget like the biggest retargeting campaign ever created. So what I did is I installed 2 pixels, Meta and Google. With Meta and Google, you can advertise a lot of places. So with Meta, you get Facebook and Instagram. With Google, you get Google Display, which puts you on all like the news and sports sites, and also YouTube, and you can do some search if you want. I didn't really do the search, but I did those 4 things: Facebook, Instagram, Google Display, YouTube. So what it meant is they were spending before I ran it, they would spend 300,000 and get 19 out of 20 people to bounce. And instead they would spend 300,000 and I'd say, hey, spend an extra $500 and I'll retarget all those people with all your best shit. And I would show them hundreds and hundreds of ads after they clicked on the website. And, they get the occasional, another 1 out of 20 converts. That was a close to the whole thing because like they had already spent money. That person had clicked, the person had seen their radio ad and their TV ad and went to their website and Googled them and clicked on it, read their reviews and still hadn't converted. So I was like, let's just follow up with the people who almost bought it. That was it. That's how I came up with the close to the whole thing. If I wanted to find all the roofing community groups on Facebook, what should I search? Just roofing, roofer, roofing, roofer. Like that's it. They're not hiding. They're trying to get found, just so you know. Aram says, any take on email marketing? Cold email marketing has hardly worked for me, or maybe I just don't know how to do it. What's the best way to go about it, or who can I outsource it to? There's a couple variables. First of all, like I know everybody tells you to do cold emails because it's simple, it's straightforward, but like it's literally the hardest way to get it off the ground because they get tons of spam. They're quick to ignore it. They don't see you as an expert. It's actually like a very difficult way to get clients. But I'll tell you what's worked for us for 20 years since you asked about cold outreach. 3 sentences is how I start conversations. I don't close people in 3 conversations, but I start buying conversations. Okay. 1 sentence of personalization. Saw your companies, or you and your founder went to UCLA. 1 sentence about them. 2nd sentence about an outcome I can create for them, and I present it in idea form first. In my case, like, hey, had an idea to get you some motorcycle cases. Last question is a big close, which is do you mind if I send it? Do you mind if I send you a video? Whatever, right? That's it. That's how I get conversations going in any industry. Personalize, had an idea to get you blank. Mind if I send it? That's it. That's what's worked for me for 20 years. And by the way, that's all about them and not about you. Most people do is they write a fucking novel about themselves and they try and sell the whole thing in a single message. Our company is, we've been doing this, blah, blah, blah. I would like to invite you to, blah, blah, blah. Here's our references. Here's our proof. Please jump on a call. And it's like, I just met you and you're vomiting about yourself and you're asking me to give up my valuable time. In my case, it's much smaller. It's like, you got a cool idea for you. Can I send this? And it's like, it's a short little video. It's a little PDF. You don't have to jump on a call, whatever. You can check it out on your own. That's always worked for us. I don't see that changing anytime soon. That just to be clear, that's our way that works. I don't want to tell you that's the way, but that's our way. Says, if I want to find all the Lazarus. Cool, man. Thanks. I think I want to move forward with your Loom conversion machine. How could I get the shoe store thing as well? Just grab it. Like I got you on Facebook already. I'll send it over to you. I got just so you know, the shoe store stuff, I have it like systematized where I got a tool that'll find them. I got a tool that'll help you scan all their stuff and figure out where to like sort of get your foot in the door. And of course, I'm here to help you answer questions and stuff. And then I got tools for co-creating content with their audience that's valuable. So we got it down to a science, just so you know. Ian says, I'll tell you an underrated win today. I have 20 clients doing CRM setup and maintenance, GHL, white label, obviously. And today I chose not to get tempted by other shiny objects. I decided to stay the course and keep pushing with what's working. I kid you not. It felt like it was one step closer to the beach life. Getting virtual assistants in the Philippines to do the meetings also helps. Yeah, awesome, dude. I just wanted to say on that because with specifically, like not getting shiny object is momentum is a real thing. When you first start out, you're at the stage called no momentum, and it's all effort to get momentum. Then you eventually push and you get a little bit of momentum. And if you keep pushing long enough, and usually this is over years, not minutes and weeks, but you'll get into what I call unstoppable momentum. Like for me, I could stop making YouTube videos and people would still find the old ones. They would still watch it. I would still get subscribers. I would still get people to message me if I never recorded another video, right? Unstoppable momentum. It's like I couldn't even turn it off if I wanted it to. I mean, I guess I could delete all the videos and shit. I'm not trying to, just so you guys know. I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. But I just say that to you guys because like so many people are trying to get, like the fast win that they don't really think about staying in one lane long enough to get momentum. And since you did that, you're going to reap the benefits of it. Ramana says, do you recommend doing outreach on Facebook using a personal account, or should I use another one that says more about my services? Which one converts better, or does it matter? Um, I would always use a personal account personally if I'm going to message people. I think people want to do business with people, not with pages. Maybe I'm wrong, but um, Talis says, I know it's a bit pushy, but how can I get clients in a week? I have to pay my rent. As you can see, it's a new profile. Does Loom video and hand raiser method work for my account? I tried method in previous account. It's actually working in a certain point, but can't land one because my disabled account before I can tag in anyone. Thanks in advance. Just so you guys know, I don't even like when people call it the Loom method or the shoe store method because it's based on timeless principles that never change. The magic of a Loom video is that we're creating an offer that people really actually want. And then we're demonstrating to them that it's real because they don't trust us by default. They don't trust marketers. And then we're answering all the questions they would typically have about it in a sales environment. And so the magic is really like offers, and offers don't go away. In the same way that, like, for example, if I said to you, I got a piece of paper, give me $1,000, you probably wouldn't. But let's say this was real for a second. I said, on this piece of paper, I have a treasure map. And there's a guy, by the way, he died, I think in Arizona or New Mexico, when he actually buried treasure for real. And he said, I'm going to leave clues. And when I'm dead, somebody's going to find my buried treasure. So imagine like I really held the map to his buried treasure. And imagine I said, hey, I was his assistant for 20 years. He told me, make him a promise before he dies that I wouldn't do it. But I have the map. I know exactly where the treasure is. I'll give you the map for $1,000. Are you buying the piece of paper? The method, the paper method? Or are you buying the fact that I want that damn treasure? Right? So the Loom video is like that, right? It's like, it's not, the magic isn't a video. The magic isn't the piece of paper. By the way, I could close sales on a fucking napkin and we could call it the napkin method. It ain't the fucking napkin, right? It's the fact that we know what they want. We're making an offer, we're demonstrating it, and we're showing them the things they would want to know, including how does it work? How much is it? How do I buy it? Is it for me? How long is it going to take? You know, those kind of things, the things they want to know. We're demonstrating that. And like, that's the magic of it, is we're actually showing them something they want. So like the magic of it is the offers. I say that because too many people get caught up in the method. Does video work? Video fucking works. Think of all the million things that are sold through video, not just my shit or your shit. So in your case, if you need money quickly, like, don't obsess about method. Just find somebody who has a fucking problem and help them. And by the way, if I needed cash quick, I would join a bunch of communities and just find people who had odd jobs, questions. I need help. By the way, every day people post problems. Every day. Hey, how to, like, for example, I've hired like 6 different people with GHL where I'm like, I don't know how to fucking make this connect with that. Can somebody help me? And somebody will come in and like, sure, I can do it. Like, and by the way, sometimes it's hard finding people to do that because like people are too busy with their own shit. But if, like, look for people with problems, and like if you need money faster, do it quicker. You're probably not going to get hired in your unique service and niche and offer. But if you need money like this fucking week, start solving other people's problems. Like, money follows problems. Go look for other people's problems. And in your case, I know because you told me privately, you know, where you're at in the world, you need about $60 US. That's one fucking person with one teeny tiny 2-hour problem. Like in the high level community, there's 50 of those fucking people a day. Like, you don't have to look too hard for it. So, you know, it won't be like a scalable business. It won't be like super repeatable, but you can get out of the shit you're in and get your rent paid. Xander says, hey, Frankie, on your last call, you mentioned your Fast Starters agency program. I was wondering if we needed any social profiles to join here. Would the outreach methods be in line with finding shoe stores that would require age Facebook accounts, adding people from groups? I know these are random questions, but at the moment, my socials are new. Just join creating them here. Fast Starters, by the way, is a program I have just for capacity reasons, not like really pushed, but it's our, you know, for those of you guys who are brand new, starting an agency, it's $99 a month, and we got a bunch of tools and stuff to help you. I have a lot of tools to help people with many different things. I'm not a big believer that everybody should be doing the same thing all the time in all ways. So yes, we have ways of doing it through social. Yes, we have ways of doing it without. There's basically 6 ways to grow an agency. There is one-to-one. You message people, call them, send DMs, message them on social, fax them. That used to be a thing. You post content and they find you, YouTube channel, LinkedIn posts, shit like that. There is run ads, Facebook ads usually, sometimes YouTube, sometimes LinkedIn, sometimes Twitter, but usually Facebook. There is good old-fashioned face-to-face networking. If you want to sell dentists and you go to the dental conference, you're sure to meet some dentists, and you'll probably close some if you make it a habit of going to meet with them. Or if you're trying to get it off the ground, like you can do it unspecialized at BNI meetings and stuff. There are referral partners, people who like, know, and trust you and send you people. And then there's, as we've been talking about shoe stores, is find the people with audiences and publish stuff in their thing, and they'll recommend you and they'll promote your content and things like that. That's it. Like, I guess you can count the seventh way of posting on like job sites, Upwork and Fiverr and things like that, and Legit, although that's my least favorite way of getting hired. But it does work. But that's it. Like, if you're going to grow an agency, you're going to do one of those things. So it's only a question of which one of those fits your style. Having said that, I have tools for literally every one of those things. You want to get hired on Fiverr? I'll help you write the best Fiverr ads. You want to post content? I like doing the social profile thing because it brings people to you. It's free. Anybody can do it. It's easy to get started. It doesn't matter if your shit's new or not. But having said that, it's far from the only way. And I got options for you. I never try and pigeonhole somebody because, like, for example, it's easy for me to make videos because, as you guys have noticed, I can shoot my mouth off, right? But that doesn't mean everybody should make videos. Like, if you're quiet and you're more introvert. When I first started, actually, I didn't want to make any videos. I had a friend created a real estate course, and he's like, we should sell it on the internet. And so we made a couple of videos. And he's like, why don't you make the videos? You understand this stuff. And he'd actually done deals. I had just read from books how to do it. And I was like, no, I'm not any good on video. That's me like 21, 22 years ago. I'm no good on video. You should be on the videos. Why don't you do it? But anyway, with the video thing, like, I don't think there's one style that's for everybody. So to me, the best thing you can do to grow an agency is find the methodology that works with your personal style, because the easier it is for you to do naturally, the better you're going to be at it. But you're going to have to do one of those 6 or 7 things, just so you know. Okay, just going back in the conversation. I send cold emails plus Loom videos to solar companies. Prospect saw the video, previewed, agreed to proceed, but keeps delaying the deposit. How do I convert without seeming pushy? I did a video on that, but just so you know, so I'll give you a little bit of the psychology behind it, and then I'll tell you the tactic of what to do. So we assume, by the way, because we understand marketing and ads and all that stuff, that they got everything we said the first time through and that they're just all gung-ho and ready to go. But in reality, they often need to hear it 6, 7 times. I'll give you an example of this. So these are internet hands. Like, I don't know how to fix shit. And my father-in-law has visited us a couple of times, and he's German, and he's a Mr. Fix-It. Like, I would never pay a contractor. Me, I'm like, I'd rather go make $1,000 on the internet and pay somebody $20, and that's a plus $9.80 for the hour than him. But whatever. So I remember we had a car thing, and he was trying to tell me in German, like, oh, you just do this and you take that and you put this and screw that on the side and replace this thing and blah, blah, blah. It's a 10-minute job. No problem. Okay. Firstly, because it was a foreign language, German, like, I kind of got what he was saying, but it's really technical. Like, it's not my first language. And then secondly, I'm not a work with your hands type, so I didn't get it. So there's a tendency when you show them your Loom system to think they just registered everything automatically. And often what you have to slow it down and go detail by detail and make sure they follow you. So you have to, it'd be the car equivalent of like, okay, first thing you got to do is take off the cover. No, not there. There's 2 bolts. Okay, I got you. Take off the cover. All right. So a lot of times you send them your system and they sort of kind of agreed to it, but they haven't moved forward. By the way, they're not a no. They may have cooled off a little bit, but they're not a no. What most people do is they go, did you see my message? Did you see my message? And what you want to do is go deeper on the aspects of it for them. So for example, if I was going to run ads for a solar company, let's say I'm running Facebook ads, there's probably like 3, 4, or 5 pieces that go into your advertising system. There is the targeting, like who you can actually show ads to, like which homeowners. There are the ads themselves, like what do the solar ads actually look like? There are landing pages you're going to send people to. There's like offers. And then there's also like what the client has to do. Like they're going to get a form fill and they have to go quote them. Each of those to me is a follow-up. So I could like, I'd say, hey, you guys really said you're interested in getting these solar jobs. Let me show you which neighborhoods I want to target. And I'd show them just like a couple of zip codes that I'm like, these are like the perfect people for you because these are rich people who buy lots of solar. Then I might show them an example ad, even though you may be running thousands of ads already. They really only care about the ads as they would look like for them, right? Just like they don't care about targeting as a whole. Okay, I get the principles of targeting, but I really only care about who are you going to target for me, right? What kind of ads are you going to run for me? So each of those is a follow-up. So a second follow-up might be like, hey, I was thinking about how you want to get these solar jobs. Here's an example ad that I would think would really crush it for you. It's a guy showing up his energy bill and how much money he saved. I can do the same thing with like landing page. Hey, I was thinking about, it might be the same templated landing page you use for everybody, but they don't care about it for everybody. They care about the personalized version for them. And again, you can do that with offers. And also you can like go into, hey, here's an example form fill you're going to get. What I need you to do is call that homeowner right away and go quote it. Like they're hot. If you wait, they'll cool off the faster you get on this. And I just go deeper into the process as it relates to them and show them what it would look like. And without force, it'll move them along. And it makes it more real for them because they didn't understand everything you said the first time through it. So like, I think more deals are won and lost in this strategic follow-up than any other place. Lazarus says, the bigger the problem, the less important the cost is to solve it. Bingo. Exactly. More hair on fire. Like when I had GHL, like I'll give you an example for me. I had a ton of people buying my shit and like my GHL thing broke and all these people weren't getting their downloads. And I was like, what the fuck? I don't know why it broke. I don't know what happened, but I'm in a group. Like, can somebody just like make my fucking shit work again? Like, I don't know how to fix this. You know, I don't care whether it's fucking 100 or 500 or 3,000, just make it work again. Right. You know, there's tons of those problems every day. Do you think I'm jumping into the roofing niche too late, focusing on Google Ads, SEO, and web design? I think you're jumping into the niche too late if you're focused on services, yes. But if you're focused on an outcome, like I'll give you an example, like how I could reinvent myself in the roofing industry, like steel roofs, metal roofs. Like I just be the metal roofing guy. Oh, well, they all, yeah, we already got hit on by 18 guys who do Google, SEO, and websites. Yeah, but are they helping you sell metal roofs? No. Okay, cool. I just want to make you a metal roofing website and SEO you for metal roofing. So you sell the metal roofing jobs. Are those the ones you want? Yeah. Is the talking assumptively more for the shoe store owners than the shoe store buyers? I talk assumptively to all of them as if like we're already collaborating and working together. Do you need a blue check mark on Facebook to successfully close clients with hand raisers? No. I've been closing people on Facebook for more than 10 years. I got a blue check mark in the last 6 months, but I was closing people long before the blue check mark, just so you know. I do PPC for mobile detailers. First client I closed was a detailer. I had paid to clean my car, thinking about continuing to do that for the IRS will love my marketing expense. Dude, that's a great way to get your foot in the door. For sure. Hey, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Although you don't necessarily have to pay them to get them as clients. So used to do AI to do voice over. There you go. Well, cool, guys. I think we're going to call that a show just because that's long enough for me here. I've been going 2.5 hours. I'm going to go eat some food. But just so you guys know, for those of you guys who missed the beginning, in June, I'm formalizing the details this week, but we are going to have a video closing workshop where I'm going to help you guys build all of this on the spot. In June, I believe it's going to be late June, but that's part of what I'm formalizing with the hotel right now. But we're going to do it in Los Angeles. It's going to be really close to LAX. For those of you guys who are interested in getting your stuff like converted over to video, I always say like I want the hardest working person in my company to be video me. I don't want real me to work that hard. We close sales all day, every day. In fact, it's been more than a year since I had a day where nobody bought something, just so you guys know. And I have a mixture of low ticket, mid ticket, and high ticket. So it's like, you know, you won't necessarily like make high ticket sales all day, every day. But we like, you know, just being real with you guys, like I almost never not have anybody buy my shit. Even on Christmas, man, like that blew my mind. And part of the reason is because my hardest working salesperson, AKA video me, is a 24/7, 365 beast. He don't take days off. He also, by the way, can be given 1,000 presentations at once. So when you really understand what people want and then you put that into your own stuff, it's a twofold effect. It's way better for you, but it's actually way better for your clients too. I didn't know that when I first got into it, but I was like, I hated sales calls, even though I was good at them. And I eventually came to realize that clients didn't like doing calls with me anymore. A lot of times they're just like, can you just tell me the fucking price? I don't want to have to talk to you for an hour to find out how much it is. Just tell me how much it is. I'm an adult. I can make a decision to buy it. And a lot of time people don't know how to present the basics. So they try and get everybody into a call, but it just exhausts you. It exhausts them. And so if you guys are interested in that, I don't have anything right now, but just send me a message and I'll add you to the early bird list. And when that officially gets announced, you guys will get first access to it if you want to come. And you'll also get like special pricing. I'm not planning on charging a lot for it. I love doing this shit. So I'm not like trying to gouge you guys. Obviously I got to do enough to cover the event and the hotel and expenses and conference room and shit like that, but it's going to be like super affordable. So if you guys want to come hang in LA, then, I'll keep you posted on the details, but that's all I got for you guys now. Let me just quickly read last question. Do I make a business page for my hand raisers or personal? I use personal for everything. You can set it up just on your personal thing. Facebook allows you to create lists. So you can like add people to a list and then you can go either only show it to people in this list or exclude people from this list. So I've done it both ways where I'll put all my business contacts in a list and then I'll say only show it to the business contacts, or I'll put all my friends and family that have nothing to do with my business into a list and I'll say exclude all the friends and family. And then it won't show it to people that, like your aunt doesn't need to know what you're fucking doing for car detailers. I've been using your Loom video strategy for my high ticket lead gen offer, but as a precursor for discovery calls, thoughts. Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it in the beginning. It's like, don't do it to try and close the sale, do it to try and shorten the sale. And then once you get used to that, then you can figure out like the last little details. Because usually like most calls are like, convince me, but I way rather have a call that's just 5 minutes long. Okay. Like I saw your thing. I saw the price. I think that's the best transition. And eventually I've helped a few people where they put it on their thank you page after someone books a call. And then a lot of times they're 5-minute calls. And then eventually they're like, why don't we just move it one step earlier now that it's working and get rid of calls altogether? So yeah, you guys can definitely do that. Anyways, I'm going to duck out. Appreciate you guys. Happy Monday. May the Triforce be with you. Appreciate you all. And if you guys want to get on that list, just shoot me a message.